Chapter 12:16. That night, Chu Yang lay in bed with Tai Budin in his arms, watching the beauty sleeping peacefully in his arms. Not only did he not feel any desire, he instead felt infinite happiness and satisfaction, as well as a kind of peace in his heart. As a woman, I am not strong. As an emperor, I have a clear conscience. As a human, I have no regrets. This was Tai Budin, his own woman. He couldn't help but think of Jianghu. This was the first time he thought of Jianghu after coming to Iron Cloud. It wasn't that he didn't want to think about it, but he didn't dare to and was too embarrassed to think about it. Even if he thought about it, he immediately forced himself not to think about it. When he had just arrived, Chu Yang's heart was filled with apprehension. He forced himself not to think about Jianghu, because he felt that if he thought about Jianghu when he was with Tai Budin, he would feel guilty and uneasy. Moreover, this was a kind of blasphemy to Jianghu. But Tai Budin was already pregnant with his child. What could he do? Abandon his wife? Or just take the child away? Abandon Tai Budin in the lower three heavens? Then, am I still human? But give up Jianghu for Tai Budin? Then, the same question, Chu Yang, are you still human? But here came the problem. You are one person, but your heart is divided into so many parts. Whether it is to Jianghu, Tai Budin, or Wu Qianqian, it is all unfair. Because they are all unreserved and wholeheartedly devoted to you. Although it is the most common thing in this world to have multiple wives and concubines, can you really be wholehearted to every one of them? But now, he let go of his own thoughts. He stopped running away and faced his own heart head-on. Sooner or later he would have to face it, so the sooner the better. Yes, when he was with Jianghu, thinking of other women was a kind of blasphemy to Jianghu. But now Chu Yang knew. When he was with Tai Budin, thinking of other women and facing Tai Budin, wasn't that also a kind of blasphemy? As he thought about it, Chu Yang's heart was in a mess. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Are all good women like peerless geniuses? Am I such a playboy? Chu Yang asked himself. Playboy? Honestly, it couldn't be considered that. If there was one woman who could make him admit that he was a playboy, it would be Zi Sheqing. His teasing, whether intentional or unintentional, or the adoration that was hidden in the depths of his heart. He was indeed a playboy. But with regards to Wu Qianqian and Tai Butian, how could Chu Yang be considered as unfaithful? Even if he wasn't unfaithful, if he had to make a choice now, which one would he give up? With a belly full of complicated thoughts, Chu Yang fell into a deep sleep. In the afternoon, Tai Budin finally recovered. She was surprised at once. Chu Yang is sleeping right beside me. This guy actually slept for a whole day? It's strange. However, he heard Chu Yang let out a long sigh. So this guy wasn't asleep? What's wrong? Tai Budin asked gently. Chu Yang turned over and hugged her in his arms. He whispered, "Tun, do you think I'm a playboy?" Tai Budin was taken aback for a moment. She thought for a while. I don't know. I don't think so. She sighed and said, in this world, there are many couples who are faithful to one another until death. Moreover, they won't look twice for their whole lives. Women like us admire such men, and also yearn for our men to treat us like that. However, such a man may not necessarily be the man we love deeply. Tai Budin said softly, do you know that after our battle back then, more than 10 million soldiers died there? Especially in the main areas where great Zhao soldiers were deployed, men became precious because of their rarity. Many brothels changed their professions. Changed their professions? Chu Yang was stunned. Changed their professions. Tai Budin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You should understand what I mean. Therefore, even though I'm a woman, I have no choice but to issue an edict to encourage men to marry more. Otherwise, the ratio of men to women would be seriously imbalanced and there would be chaos in the world. Tai Budin smiled lightly. All right, now I've tasted the consequences. I, the emperor, have become someone else's concubine. Chu Yang was originally in a heavy mood. When he heard this, a surge of evil fire and an inexplicable excitement suddenly surged in his heart. Tai Budin obviously didn't know what kind of consequences her words had triggered. She looked at Chu Yang and said very seriously, Chu Yang, women are very fragile and delicate. In a chaotic world, we may be jealous or throw tantrums, but we can't do anything about such a world. Therefore, if you can protect us and take good care of us, she said quietly, I won't allow you to be fickle in love. However, for us whom you also like and love deeply, please give us happiness and safety, as well as peace of mind. Chu Yang nodded. Tai Butian's words were very magnanimous. However, Chu Yang knew that although her words were beautiful, her heart was definitely not so. I won't allow you to be fickle in love. For us whom you like and love deeply, the meaning of these words was very deep. Tai Butian admitted that she was a latecomer. Therefore, although she was against it, she couldn't oppose it. To oppose it would be to deny herself. Therefore, the subtext of this sentence was, other than these few, don't think about anything else. Such a narrow-minded woman. Chu Yang pinched her nose and deliberately put on an angry face. However, if you want to be a concubine, you must have the awareness of a concubine. If you don't serve me well, I will sell you off at any time. Now, what are you waiting for? Tai Butian was very embarrassed. She pinched him. You're such a pervert. Chu Yang chuckled and flipped over. Come, as an official, I will serve His Majesty. As a concubine, you can serve your man. It's night time again. As the two of them ate, Chu Yang seemed to be deep in thought. Is it because of your icy heart jade bone divine technique? Or is it because of your emperor divine art? Why are you breaking through bottlenecks so frequently? Tai Butian paused for a moment and smiled. I thought you wouldn't ask. Yes, it's because of my icy heart jade bone divine technique. It's because of your heavy elixir that I have some small achievements in icy heart jade bone divine technique. Moreover, this martial art is a martial art that no one has ever practiced to great success. Even my master only has the chant for it before great success. Therefore, I can only control my own cultivation and carefully experience every breakthrough. I'm afraid that in the future, if there's no way out and I don't have any experience, then... Tai Butian smiled bitterly. Chu Yang immediately understood. Lan Meixian's incantation was incomplete. Tai Butian was obviously keeping an extra eye on herself. She was preparing to work hard to break through. If she reached that stage in the future, she would open up her own path. Chu Yang sighed. Tai Butian also sighed. Both of them knew what the other was sighing about. Lan Meixian had taken in a younger brother and now betrayed him. Of course, this was intolerable. However, Tai Butian didn't completely believe it back then. I'm just a woman from the lower three heavens. Although I'm a royal family in the eyes of the experts of the upper three heavens, so what if I'm the emperor of the lower three heavens? Why would such a great thing happen to me? Tai Butian smiled lightly. A meat pie has fallen from the sky, but the only thing I'm afraid of is being smashed by it. Therefore, I have no choice but to guard against it. Chu Yang, this is also the benefit of being born in a royal family or a great clan. You think a lot. Give up on this technique? I can't give up. Now that I've reached this stage, I can feel that if I go any further, I'll reach the legendary telepathy, said Tai Butian. Chu Yang was excited. Although Tai Butian didn't say it explicitly, he understood what she meant. When I reach the telepathy level or even higher, I'll be able to I'll be of real help to you. Telepathy, I can see through people's hearts with my heart. The following month was uneventful. Tai Butian handled the daily affairs of the court. That Prime Minister Wang, who used to be favored by the emperor, was immediately dismissed by Tai Butian. He was expelled. Towards the doubts of the officials, Tai Butian didn't give an explanation. The emperor became more and more domineering and majestic. All the military officials trembled in fear. Prime Minister Wang didn't submit a petition to complain either. Obviously, he already knew that Tai Butian was already very merciful to spare the lives of his entire family. When they were free, Chu Yang and Feng Qiliang sparred with Tai Butian. They consolidated their cultivation. Whether it was Tai Butian or Feng Qiliang, both of them were improving at a rapid pace. Ever since Tai Butian's meridians and marrow cleansing, she became stunningly beautiful. Chu Yang often looked at her and was dazzled. Her originally fair skin had now become sparkling and translucent like jade, almost giving off a transparent feeling. When the three of them were practicing, the little fellow Tai Yang often sat at the side and watched in boredom, yawning from time to time. When Chu Yang suggested teaching him martial arts, the little fellow was adamantly against it, shaking his head like a rattle drum. No, your martial arts aren't good enough. The little fellow pouted. It's not suitable for me. I have my own martial arts. I'll start practicing when I'm 2 years old. Chu Yang had just glared when the little fellow started to act coquettishly. Father, just believe me, Minister Chu had no choice but to give up. The little fellow smiled triumphantly. It wasn't easy for me to relax for a few days. How can I continue practicing? That's so boring. Besides, which martial arts should I practice? A month and a half passed by quickly. This night, knowing that they were about to part, the two of them looked at each other in silence. They didn't do anything or say a word. Early in the morning, Chu Yang stood up. Tai Butin quietly helped him put on his clothes and tidied him up, just like a considerate wife who was about to send her husband off on a long journey. I'll wait for you. Take care. Early in the morning, the emperor's tour of the south began. Banners covered the sky and the ceremonial procession was grand. Dressed in splendid attire, the emperor looked dignified and solemn. She stepped onto the dragon carriage and began her first tour of the world in her political career. A long howl came from afar, getting further and further away, shaking the clear sky. Tai Butin didn't turn back. She sat upright in the dragon carriage and closed her eyes. A teardrop silently slid down from the corner of her eye. I'm your wife, but I'm still the emperor of this world. You must take care. I'll wait for your return. Chapter 12:17. When Chu Yang and Tai Butin were bidding farewell in the lower three heavens, there was also a send-off in the Heaven Imperial Court. Looking at Zi Sheqing's white robe, escorted by the guards of the Demon Palace towards the south, the Demon Empress' eyes were solemn. I didn't expect her to survive such a cruel rebirth. The beautiful lady in white had admiration in her eyes. Back then, I only split my soul 81 times at the soul-splitting platform. After one time, I asked for it to be stopped. The Demon Empress looked at her sister coldly and said, "This is because your heart is not firm at all. How can you talk about turning into a human?" The beautiful lady in white felt ashamed and said, "However, this also shows that Zi Sheqing's heart for the person she loves is extremely firm and earth-shattering. Now that her wish has finally been fulfilled, I feel very comforted and gratified. I only hope that she can stay with the person she loves forever and be happy." Ha! The Demon Empress actually laughed out loud. As she laughed, she looked at her sister mockingly. "Mengming, you're still dreaming. You're as innocent as you were when you were young." I'm dying of laughter. Do you really think that Zi Sheqing went through such pain for a man? The beautiful lady in white was stunned. What do you mean? Isn't she doing it for her man? Maybe it's part of the reason, but it's definitely not the main reason. The Demon Empress' eyes were deep. I can only say that this woman will be a very scary person in the future. 81 times at the soul-splitting platform, 81 times at the heartbreaking spring, 81 times at the demon forging cave, 81 times at the demon annihilation thunder. The Demon Empress smiled lightly. Not simple, not simple. The beautiful lady in white was puzzled. She asked, "Big sister, is there a heavenly secret in this?" "Of course there is." The Demon Empress said deeply, "You've also cultivated the Sky Demon Mystic Classic. You should still remember the first sentence of it." "Of course I remember the first sentence." The beautiful lady in white said without hesitation, "The Sky Demon has no way. Heaven and earth is home. If one wants to reach the top, one must be a life raft." "Yes, it's the life raft." The Demon Empress' eyes flashed. "I don't understand. Moreover, I always thought that these words were useless." The beautiful woman in white frowned her beautiful eyebrows. "Moreover, the raft. It's something used for water. Descending to the peak means going higher. It doesn't make sense at all. Perhaps it was written randomly by predecessors for the sake of rhyming." "Nonsense." The Demon Empress rebuked angrily, The predecessors had gone through thousands of generations of exploration and accumulation before they created the Sky Demon Mystic Canon. Not a single word in it is meaningless. If you want to reach the pinnacle, you have to make a life raft. The Demon Empress said in a deep voice, "There was once an almighty person who said, 'In the mortal world, there is no such thing as a mortal.' It was originally a sea of bitterness. Everyone was floating up and down in it. There is no exception. Do you understand now?" The Demon Empress said indifferently, "The life-crossing raft. It's a human body. Why do we demons need to transform into humans at the beginning of our cultivation? And this transformation is the most important stage?" The Demon Empress said, "Everyone is struggling in the sea of bitterness, but only those who struggle in the sea of bitterness can reach the other side of the sea of bitterness. This is the origin of the life-crossing raft. Even for our sky demon race, if we want to reach the end and become the supreme existence, we have to transform into humans first. Only then can we reach the highest level." The Demon Empress looked down and said indifferently, "If you want to reach the pinnacle, you have to make a life raft. That's what it means." The beautiful lady in white widened her eyes in shock. "But this is the Sky Demon Mystic Canon. The Sky Demon Mystic Canon is in the Heaven Imperial Court, and only our family can cultivate it. If Zi Xiecheng is really like this, then how did she know?" The Demon Empress pondered. "I find it strange too. However, Zi Xiecheng is different from us. We are at the last step before we can make this life raft, and we have to go through endless dangers. But she is in the middle of it. She hasn't even reached it, and she has already started." The Demon Empress turned to look at her younger sister and said, "Mengming, if you are fine, you are very close to Zi Xiecheng. Now that she has just gone through the process of destroying demons and becoming humans, she is in a weak state. Why don't you protect her for a while? How about it?" The beautiful lady in white nodded and said, "All right." The two sisters smiled knowingly. "Mother, why don't I go and protect Miss C?" Following the voice, a young man in white suddenly appeared behind her. He was handsome and dashing, like a tree in the wind. "You go? No way." The Demon Empress frowned. Although Zi Xiecheng is not doing it entirely for men, she must have such a reason. If you go, you will definitely cause disgust. Instead, things will become irreparable. The young man's eyes flashed. He smiled and said, "If I make her your daughter-in-law, wouldn't everything be more convenient?" The Demon Empress said angrily, "Nonsense. You pestered her for so long 70,000 years ago. She didn't have a man then and didn't accept you. Now that her heart belongs to someone else, do you think you will succeed?" The young man said dejectedly, "But it's always good to try." The Demon Empress said angrily, "How many times have you tried? You don't even know how to fight back after being hit by a woman. How can I have a son like you? Being hit by a beauty is a form of enjoyment." The young man explained weakly. "One last try." The Demon Empress turned her head and ignored him. "Meng, I'll leave this matter to you." The young man turned his head and pleaded, "Aunt, please put in a few good words for me. I'll go over when I'm free." The beautiful woman in white smiled bitterly. 3 days. In that mysterious cave. The brothers had been in seclusion for so long that even Mo Tianji couldn't count the number of days. It had to be said that such days were boring and unbearable. Everyone was a hot-blooded young man. At first, it was fine. But now, as they saw the huge dragon formed by the vital energy of heaven and earth slowly shrinking and gradually disappearing, their hearts started to become restless. On this day, something finally happened. Of course, they had to practice martial arts. But when they were free, there was nothing they didn't talk about. The story of the cold-faced Gu Duxing and Gu Miaoling's romance had been repeated 7 times under the pressure of his brothers. Ji Mo's romance had been repeated dozens of times. Especially regarding Huyen Aobo's abuse of GMO. Everyone never got tired of hearing about it. As for Ao Xie Yun and Xie Dan Qiong, everyone even talked about how they started to climb trees and dig out bird nests when they were young. Everything after that? Towards the end, the topic gradually became heavier and heavier. They talked about the dispute between the clans. The brothers turned against each other. Everyone sighed in unison. Only GMO was very happy. He said, "What's the big deal? Isn't it just a fight? I don't feel any pressure at all." When this sentence came out, everyone despised him at the same time. GMO and Jianghu also fought for the position of the clan head. But these two lazy bums fought because they didn't want to be the clan head. They didn't fight for power or profit. These two brothers were both lazy bones, compared to the other clans. It was like heaven and earth. Gu Duxing felt slightly worse. But now, he also truly felt the benefits of killing the two brothers of the Gu clan. His heart wasn't so conflicted anymore. Ao Xieyun even competed with his cousins. Most of them were killed by these brothers. Some were even executed by his father. Luo Kadi and Luo Ke didn't develop to that stage at all. Xie Danqiong was chosen from a young age. No one competed with him. Instead, he was the most relaxed. This was the one who suffered the most. It was Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji used to fight to the death with Mo Tianyun for a very long time. The space here was sealed, far away from the bustling world of mortals. Mo Tianji's mind also gradually became calm and quiet. He thought about the things in his life. He thought about everything that made him sad and happy. He thought about how Mo Tianyun took care of him when he was young. When he was at a disadvantage, the young Mo Tianyun would always stand up for him. Who dares to bully my second brother? At that time, he was so safe. So much dependence. But since when did these two brothers become so irreconcilable? Although in the end, Mo Tianyun was proven to be a bastard and not of the direct bloodline, but Mo Tianji thought about it. The one he missed was still that big brother of his. He was dead after all. He died in the fight with him. He used to be very happy. He used to be very relaxed because of his death. But now the past kept coming back. Why was the melancholy in his heart unable to be erased? If he didn't change back then, he wouldn't fight with him at all. But why did he change? The smarter a person was, the easier it was for him to go down a dead end. Mo Tianji's controlling the world required him to have a heart of ice and snow. The most taboo was to have a chaotic heart. Once his heart was chaotic, he couldn't control it. On this day, when the brothers were practicing, they suddenly heard a scream. "Big brother, why did you become like this?" Everyone was shocked awake. They saw Mo Tianji spit out a mouthful of blood. Then he spat out more blood and collapsed. The brothers turned pale with fright. Now, everyone had surpassed the saint level. The huge, solid energy of heaven and earth had been absorbed by everyone. At such a critical juncture, at such a high level of cultivation, Mo Tianji actually went crazy. This was really something that no one expected. Gu Duxing was the first to react. In a flash, he appeared behind Mo Tianji's body. Using his hand to press against Mo Tianji's back, he continuously channeled his energy into Mo Tianji's body. However, he felt that the meridians in Mo Tianji's body were in a mess. Gu Duxing actually couldn't contain his energy. "Come over!" Gu Duxing shouted. GMO, Luo Kadi and Xie Danqiong immediately came over to help. The divine dragon energy in his body is in a mess. In just a moment, sweat had already appeared on Gu Duxing's face. This situation is really bad. When he first went into seclusion, Mo Tianji had already warned Gu Duxing. With so many young and strong guys in seclusion here, there would definitely be problems after a long time. So the two of them had prepared for this possibility for a long time and discussed many countermeasures. Chapter 12:18. The power of the divine dragon is in disorder. I need the blood of the divine dragon. Ao Xieyun gritted his teeth and said, "Duxing, it's useless to inject vital energy like this. Let go, let me do it." Everyone hurriedly let go. Ao Xieyun had the bloodline of the true dragon in him. He was indeed the only one who could treat the disorder of the divine dragon. Blood gushed out of Mo Tianji's mouth. Deep in his lifeless eyes, however, a trace of relief flashed past. Ao Xieyun channeled his power and gathered the bloodline of the true dragon in his body. Then he went to Mo Tianji's side. With a swoosh, he cut a deep wound on his wrist. Warm blood gushed out and entered Imo Tianji's mouth. Gu Duxing injected vital energy into him from behind, guiding the bloodline of the divine dragon to flow through Imo Tianji's body and smoothing out the chaotic aura. After a long while, the blood stopped flowing out of his wrist. Ao Xieyun frowned and cut the wound again. This time, the cut was even deeper. The large amount of blood loss caused his face to gradually turn pale. But on the contrary, Imo Tianji's face gradually regained color. Seeing that it was still not enough, Ao Xieyun stretched out his left hand again. Feeling waves of dizziness in his head, he said calmly, "Duxing, if I faint later, continue to bleed until Tianji wakes up." Gu Duxing was shocked. "You will die if you do that." Ao Xieyun frowned and said unhappily, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? If I don't do this, what's the difference between Tianji's death and my own death? Will I still be able to raise my head in this life?" Gu Duxing took a deep breath. At this moment, Imo Tianji moaned weakly and opened his eyes. A bitter smile appeared on his lips. "I've embarrassed myself," the brothers cheered thunderously. Ao Xieyun was relieved at once. With a thud, he fell down and fainted. GMO and Luo Kadi hurriedly stepped forward and bandaged his wounds. Imo Tianji's body was extremely weak. He managed to say a few words to stop Ao Xieyun before he fainted again. Gu Duxing and Xie Danqiong hurried forward. They laid his body flat and took care of him carefully. No one knew the joy and guilt in Imo Tianji's heart at the last moment. "Indeed, I've been a villain for nothing." Although inner demons were powerful, to Imo Tianji, even if he was injured, it shouldn't have been so serious. This time, it was qi deviation. After Imo Tianji lost control of his inner demons, he automatically added fuel to the fire and pushed himself to the brink of death. It was Ao Xieyun. Imo Tianji was very reassured about these brothers. GMO, Gu Duxing, Luo Kadi and Imo Tianji had followed Chu Yang for a long time. So, they knew each other very well. There were no secrets between them. Therefore, Imo Tianji didn't suspect them. As for Xie Danqiong looked handsome and confident on the surface. However, his way of thinking was somewhat conservative. During this period of time, Xie Danqiong could even be said as a person in some aspects. It was a little naive. A true sexual lover. Therefore, Imo Tianji was not worried. The only one who was a little uncertain was Ao Xieyun. Before this, Ao Xieyun was known as the #1 person of the younger generation. His intelligence and scheming were not far off from his own. Now, in this group, Ao Xieyun's position was at the back because of the time he had joined. Would he feel uncomfortable? Would he be unconvinced? Everyone had finished absorbing the energy of heaven and earth and was preparing to leave this place. Perhaps, after they left, they would have to face the great battle of the upper three heavens. How could it be ordinary? If Ao Xieyun, Imo Tianji had always been cautious. In fact, he had reached the point of being cautious when making plans. He deeply understood the importance of unity and purity in a group. He definitely wouldn't be at ease to bring such a group into the upper three heavens and hand it over to Chu Yang. Therefore, today's cultivation had gone awry. On one hand, it was indeed the inner demons that had invaded. There was no doubt about this. However, on the other hand, this was also a genuine test. To test whether Ao Xieyun could disregard his own life for his brothers. This test would determine all of Imo Tianji's future plans. Now, although it was proven that Imo Tianji was indeed a little narrow-minded, Imo Tianji didn't regret it. On the contrary, he was very happy. However, he felt a little guilty towards Ao Xieyun. However, we will all be brothers in the future. No one knows. I'll find a chance to tell him or not. I'll keep it in my heart. Imo Tianji thought of this and fainted happily. Now, he was completely at ease with these few brothers. It had to be said that Imo Tianji's cautiousness had sometimes reached an unbearable level. During this period of time, this schemer couldn't go out and display his skills. Therefore, he began to think about the matters between his brothers. Chu Yang was the most at ease. Absolutely reliable. Moreover, he was his future brother-in-law. Gu Duxing was the most hardcore. He was the most at ease brother. No matter what happened, As long as he was there, he could be at ease. Dong Wuxiang was absolutely reliable. He was like an iron bastion, giving people an incomparably safe feeling. If Gu Duxing and Dong Wuxiang were two peerless warriors, then GMO and Luo Kudi were lucky generals. They didn't have to worry about anything. Benefits would fall from the sky and fall on their heads. GMO was indifferent and lazy. Yes, this was a bit of an overestimation of him. In fact, he was just a lazy pig. However, he was loyal and righteous. There was absolutely nothing to doubt about him. Luo Kudi's personality was comical, but he was a sexual lover. Xie Dan Qiong was steady and generous. Although his looks were average, he was a typical upright gentleman. Rui Butong was unrestrained and unrestrained by the customs of the world. However, overall, he was exceptionally reliable. Ao Xieyun was also at ease now. How could Mo Tianji not be happy? If it were Chu Yang, he probably wouldn't be able to use Mo Tianji's methods in his lifetime. This was also the biggest difference between Chu Yang and Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji always kept himself in the safest environment at all times. Chu Yang, on the other hand, had to roam the world and fight. Danger lurked everywhere. This crisis was resolved 3 days later. When Ao Xieyun was still a little weak, Mo Tianji had already completely recovered. At this moment, the heaven-earth yuan qi that was the size of a small mountain was completely absorbed by the brothers. It was time to come out of seclusion. On this day, the mountain residents suddenly surged. A dragon's roar that seemed to come from the depths of the soul suddenly rang out. "We're going out." Mo Tianji and Gu Duxing stood side by side. Looking at a bright spot in front of the sealed space, they murmured. All the brothers became excited at the same time. The bright spot grew bigger and bigger, slowly turning into a straight passage leading upwards. "Let's go!" Chu Yang ran all the way without looking back. He was afraid that once he turned back, he wouldn't be able to leave. When he entered the passage for 3 days, Chu Yang finally turned back. Clouds and mist filled the air. Looking back, there were no iron clouds, only dust and mist. Chu Yang left behind a concern and a heart. He seemed to be dreaming, until he was running through the passage. He also felt like he was in a dream. "So, I have a woman and a child here. I have a concern." He really didn't know what his heart was feeling. Now, Chu Yang began to consider if he returned to the Chu clan. If he saw Mo Qingwu, how would he feel? Chu Yang sighed and stopped himself from thinking about this matter. Then he increased his speed. 3 days. In a purple bamboo forest. Chu Yang suddenly popped his head out. Then he jumped out with a whoosh. The passage beneath him disappeared instantly. Chu Yang took a step out. Only then did he realize that this purple bamboo forest was actually not the passage he went down. Moreover, this purple bamboo forest was actually the purple bamboo forest where he met Mo Qingwu in his previous life. Isn't this deliberately making me feel bad? Although Chu Yang cursed in his heart, he had to admit that it still evoked the softness in the depths of his heart. He lingered in the purple bamboo forest for an entire morning before he finally left. Shouts came from afar. A group of black-clothed men were fighting with many yellow-clothed men. Chu Yang quickly rushed over. He didn't expect it at all. The first familiar person he saw in 3 days was actually him. He saw a man in green standing on top of a big tree, moving up and down with the branches. His body was also moving up and down. His hands were behind his back, looking at the battlefield. The expression on his face was actually extremely relaxed. The moment Chu Yang rushed out, the man in green's gaze also turned towards him. Then both of them smiled at the same time. "Brother Yu." Chu Yang directly flashed across 5,000 feet and came in front of Duke Yu. "It's been a long time." "It's really been a long time." Duke Yu shook his head and chuckled. "Why did you suddenly appear?" "It's a long story." Chu Yang smiled bitterly and looked at the battlefield. "What's going on?" A small force that doesn't know its place actually wanted to be rude to Alu. They were originally taught a lesson by Alu's bodyguards, but they actually kept pestering. Duke Yu said casually, "I've been thinking about something after a long period of silence." I'm here to sharpen my blade and slaughter all these blind things. Brother you, I beg you spare us. On the battlefield, a person screamed, his face full of tears. Are you going to destroy the entire Pang family of Mountain Vase just because of a spoiled brat's misdeeds? Duke Yu ignored him and smiled at Chu Yang. Look, they came to beg for mercy. The Pang clan of Mountain Pot. Chu Yang's heart shook. This clan was the one that besieged Mo Qingwu and caused her to die. Back then, it was precisely because a playboy in the clan took liberties with Mo Qingwu and was beaten up by her, forming a grudge. The previous generation of this clan was destroyed by Chu Yang because of Mo Qingwu. Now, there was no one to take liberties with Mo Qingwu, but this guy actually took liberties with Jun Lulu? This really made Chu Yang speechless. It seemed that he still had to die how he was supposed to die. I always feel that you guys are a little too lenient on your enemies, Duke Yu said in a good mood. If someone offends me, I will definitely kill his whole clan. And I will announce it to the world. This can save a lot of trouble. Killing people can also make me happy. That makes sense. Chu Yang nodded. If the big clans of the upper three heavens offend you, then it will be really troublesome. They can kill until your hands go soft. Get lost. Duke Yu shouted angrily. Chapter 12:19. Chu Yang laughed heartily. What he said just now had obviously hit this guy's sore spot. No wonder you're so fearless. TSK. Duke Yu looked at Chu Yang from the corner of his eyes. So you're already a saint? TSK. Not bad, little one. You've improved so quickly? Of course. Chu Yang puffed out his chest proudly. Torturing you now is just like playing a game. Duke Yu laughed. Later, let's have a spar? I'm afraid that I won't be able to explain to Jun Lulu if I beat you to death. Chu Yang was very humble. It's okay. I'll just take it as learning from you. Duke Yu winked. Chu Yang looked up suspiciously. He was a little puzzled. This guy looked like a second-stage saint, and he wanted to spar with him? Was he really looking for a beating? Recalling how he was humiliated by Duke Yu back then, Minister Chu's pride and anger surged. But when you're done, I'll spar with you. Chu Yang gritted his teeth and said. As he spoke, those people from the Pang clan of Mountain Vase had already turned into corpses. The leader of the black-clothed men came back to hand in the order. You guys go back first. I have something to discuss with this boss. Duke Yu waved his hand. The black-clothed men answered respectfully. They couldn't help but look up secretly. There weren't many people in these 3 days that Duke Yu called this boss. What they saw was a handsome young man in black. At this moment, this young man was nodding and smiling. The young man's carefree attitude and Duke Yu's carefree attitude were like two brothers. They were both outstanding and different from the rest. Duke Yu said, Let's go, let's find a place to have a good fight. It's been a long time since I met an opponent above the saint level. I'm really itching for a fight. With a swoosh, the two disappeared at the same time. Only the black-clothed men who had just finished their work were left with their mouths wide open. Their eyes almost popped out. What? Was this young man, who was as handsome as jade and even very quiet and thin, actually a saint-level expert? Black 3, did I hear wrongly? Saint level? One of the black-clothed men turned to look at his companion in a daze. Yes, I think I heard wrongly too. Black 3 said. Duke Yu's words can be wrong? Another man said. Saint level, in the distance. Mountain range. A single ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? Chu Yang displayed his sword moves in a spirited manner, attacking Duke Yu from all directions. Duke Yu retreated. Haha. Minister Chu was in high spirits. Brother Yu, I was afraid of hurting you. So, I didn't dare to use my full strength. Duke Yu smiled faintly, then go ahead and attack with all your might. It's a good opportunity for me to test my bottom line. Good. Chu Yang shouted, and increased his strength by a bit. Duke Yu was still swaying as he tried to resist, just a little more. Chu Yang suddenly felt that something was wrong. Fuck, did I get cheated again? Now, he had already reached the 3rd grade of Sword Saint. This kind of power was enough to kill a 5th-grade martial saint. In the beginning, Duke Yu was on the verge of collapsing. Why was he still in such a precarious situation? This fellow could not have improved so quickly, right? Chu Yang let out a long howl, and his long sword rolled out. He used the last 4 moves of the Calamity Sword technique at full force, using the power of soft water. The power of the raging waves, the power of the gigantic waves. They attacked with everything they had. Duke Yu let out a long laugh. Watch me. Suddenly, he opened his hands, and with a swoosh, on the ground in front of him, at a speed visible to the naked eye, a swooshing sound was heard. In an instant, it formed a patch of green, enveloping the entire battlefield. Duke Yu chuckled and raised his hands. Take this. All the green vines wrapped around Chu Yang as if they had a life of their own. Chu Yang was shocked. He never dreamed that there would be such a strange martial art. With a few swooshing sounds, the Calamity Sword cut off all the vines, and they fell to the ground. But then he realized that he was already in a green ocean. And Duke Yu's figure. He actually didn't know where he had gone. Only this green ocean that was constantly growing was attacking him furiously. Moreover, the new vines that were growing out were actually full of sharp thorns, and they attacked him like poisonous snakes. After cutting off the vines that fell to the ground, they actually took root again. The more he cut off, the more vines there were. Chu Yang was very surprised. As he slashed with his sword, he said angrily, "What kind of martial art is this?" A green vine in front of him shook, and suddenly turned into the appearance of Duke Yu. He rushed up silently, and his palms were powerful. Bang bang bang, Chu Yang was furious. Watch me cut them all. Dig them out by the roots. This move was indeed effective. The vines that were dug out by the roots had obviously lost their vitality, and they fell to the ground softly. But doing this would cause too much damage to the plane. With a long roar, Duke Yu's thin figure rose up. He shouted, "Chu Yang, take this move of mine. 10,000 rivers and mountains, I'm the king of the 8 barren lands." With a long roar, Duke Yu's figure spun rapidly in midair and turned into a green shadow. Then, it turned into a green cloud and fell down crazily. Tens of thousands of palm forces and tens of thousands of streams of energy attacked Chu Yang from all directions at this moment. These streams of energy were all different. Some were slanted, some were straight, some were curved, and some were spiraling. All kinds of strange attacks were coming. Chu Yang cursed, "You're serious?" 20 moves of the Calamity Sword were unleashed crazily. With a series of bangs, Chu Yang rolled out like a rubber ball. Duke Yu's figure retreated slowly. Minister Chu came to a stop and discovered that he couldn't see anything. It turned out that at this moment he was completely wrapped in layers of plundering vines. From the outside, it looked like a gigantic green ball. "Do you admit defeat?" Duke Yu's voice sounded. "I admit defeat. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him." Chu Yang admitted defeat quickly. This was the first time in his life that he had seen such a strange fighting method. Could it be the secret technique of the elves? With a swoosh, the vines disappeared. Duke Yu stood in front of him with his hands behind his back and smiled slightly. "You bastard, you tricked me?" Chu Yang said angrily. "Where did this come from?" Duke Yu shook his head. "You said that you wanted to beat me up to vent your anger." Chu Yang sighed. "You've completely absorbed the inheritance of the elves?" Duke Yu nodded. "Yes, I've completely awakened the elves' secret technique, bloodline, and divine soul. I've also eaten the heart of earth that had been passed down by my ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. Of course, my strength has improved by leaps and bounds." He blinked his eyes. "If I were to reveal it, I'm afraid that I would be beaten to death by the big clans, or be captured and interrogated about the secret technique. Of course, I don't dare to. But now that the Tribulation Sword Master has obtained the 4th fragment of the Tribulation Sword, of course I have to quickly recover my strength." "I see." Chu Yang gritted his teeth. He said hatefully, "You tricked me." Duke Yu laughed and then sighed. "It's a pity that the spring of life of the elves has long disappeared. If there was still the spring of life, my strength would be able to improve greatly, and reached the level of 3rd or 7th grade supreme martial artist. But now, I'm only at the peak of 3rd grade supreme martial artist. Spring of life? Chu Yang's heart moved. But even if you've recovered the L's inheritance, you can't improve so quickly, right? Chu Yang asked doubtfully. I received the essence of heaven and earth, and was only born after tens of thousands of years. Does this period of time not count? Duke Yu rolled his eyes. Master, Chu Yang exclaimed. How has it been during this period of time? The two found a forest. Chu Yang chopped down 3 adjacent trees with one palm. Sitting on a wooden stump, Duke Yu's eyebrows twitched. It's all right, bamboo has been in seclusion. Duke Yu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Lu and I wanted to ask her to be our witness, but she didn't appear. You're married? Chu Yang was really surprised. No wonder you're different from before when I see you this time. Before Duke Yu recovered his elven bloodline, he was a little unhappy. He was still a little unhappy. Why did he think things through after recovering? Duke Yu revealed a gentle smile on his face. Since you disappeared at the Lake of Despair, where have you been? Duke Yu asked. To the upper 3 heavens. Chu Yang laughed. What about you? It's just as I expected. Duke Yu smiled lightly. I went to the far north wastelands to recover and improve, and then I didn't go anywhere else, and focused on accompanying Lu. Haha, I didn't expect Brother Duke Yu to be such a romantic. Chu Yang joked. You think too highly of me. Duke Yu laughed and said somewhat emotionally, you don't understand matters of the heart. I don't understand. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. My heart is about to be tangled to death by my own feelings. Someone actually said that I don't understand feelings. The two chatted for a while, and Chu Yang was about to leave. When are you going to the upper 3 heavens? Duke Yu asked before leaving. The day when the heavenly passage opens is the day when we kill our way up to the upper 3 heavens. Chu Yang said lightly. At that time, you can do whatever you want in the upper 3 heavens. Duke Yu's eyes lit up, and he stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the clouds in the sky, and after a long time, he said, all right. The two waved goodbye. Before leaving, Chu Yang gave Duke Yu 2 water bottles, and specially said, you can only look at them after I leave. And you have to drink them immediately. But I can't move when I haven't gone far. Duke Yu looked at him disdainfully. He was disdainful and agreed with a smile. This little guy is obviously angry that I tricked him just now, and now he wants to pretend to be mysterious and get back at me. Seeing that Chu Yang's figure had already disappeared into the distance, Duke Yu smiled. His long sleeves rolled up, and like flowing clouds, he rolled up the 2 water bottles and snorted. Then, he twisted open the lid of one of them. Just as he twisted open the lid, his nose twitched. What a fragrant wine! He raised his head and gulped it down. It's too little, only 2 or 3 mouthfuls. This guy is too stingy, and he's deliberately coveting me. Just as he was thinking about whether he should chase after Chu Yang and ask for some good wine, a hot steam suddenly came out of his dantian, and a powerful force rushed out and integrated into his meridians. The cultivation in his whole body rolled like a raging wave and couldn't be stopped. Chapter 12:20. This is actually spiritual wine. Duke Yu was shocked. He hurriedly channeled his energy to guide this sudden strong cultivation into his meridians. After a while, Duke Yu stood up. Looking at the dirt all over his body, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was indeed good stuff. The 3 mouthfuls had increased his cultivation by 300 years. In just an instant, his cultivation had reached the critical point of breaking through to 4th grade supreme martial artist. This was simply unthinkable. Since the wine in this kettle was so amazing, then what was in the other kettle? Duke Yu suddenly became extremely curious. He tried to pick it up, open the lid and smell it. Duke Yu sat down on the ground. Suddenly, his eyes widened to the maximum. His hands tightly hugged the purple crystal kettle as he groaned. Spring of life. It's the spiritual spring of life that's close to evolving to the later stage of the spring of life. Oh my God. He sat there in a daze, but his eyes were filled with unbelievably ecstasy. After a long time, he finally regained his senses. Then, he hurriedly covered it up. He couldn't care less about the stench on his body and chased after Chuyang. Chuyang, stop right there. Damn you. Where did you find it from? Duke Yu's shouts echoed throughout the three heavens. Crazy. Chuyang ran like a gust of wind. He changed his direction and went to the Ao clan. Duke Yu shouted all the way, but he ran in the opposite direction. The distance between the two parties was getting further and further. This was Chu Yang's intention. I'm in a hurry to reunite with my brothers. Don't make trouble. Otherwise, I'd rather stay and see your shocked expression. It'll definitely be fun, but now, no matter how anxious you are, you're not as anxious as I am. I really don't have much time left. As for why I let Duke Yu see the spiritual spring, that's because, this guy's cultivation has increased so much. It's really a pity that he's not a top fighter. When Chuyang arrived, he saw that the Ao clan was very lively. Everyone was in a hurry. There seemed to be many guests in the Ao clan. Chuyang grabbed one of them and asked, "What's wrong? Why is it so lively?" This guy was very impatient. "Are you from the three heavens? You don't even know about such a big thing." Such a big matter? Chuyang was delighted. Could it be that Ao Shiyun and the others have come out of their seclusion? No. The warrior of the Ao clan was very dissatisfied. Don't you know that the Ao clan master is celebrating his birthday? All the great clans have come to celebrate. I see. The corners of Chuyang's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, it seems that I've arrived at the right time. It looks like I'm going to get ripped off. At this moment, in the distance, a procession of carriages and horses was approaching with great momentum. A large flag fluttered in the wind. Gu! The Gu family. Did you see that? The young mistress of the Gu clan has personally come. The Ao clan's warrior said proudly. Gu clan's young mistress and eldest miss? Chuyang was shocked by this title. After a long time, he finally reacted. This is the legendary Gu Miaoling, Gu Duxing's lover. Chuyang had heard of him for a long time. But this was his first time meeting him. So he couldn't help but be curious. They saw that the gate of the Ao clan suddenly opened, and someone came out to greet them with quick steps. It was actually a few women, all of them graceful and elegant. The warrior was shocked. The clan master's wife has personally come out to greet them. This is really giving face. Chuyang coughed. He understood. The Gu clan was a woman, but Ao Tianxing, the clan master, was a man. It wasn't appropriate to greet them. He brought out his wife. Sure enough, the curtains of the Gu clan's carriage were lifted, and a graceful figure appeared. From afar, she quickly stepped forward and bowed. Then, the group of women walked in happily and affectionately. Immediately, on the main road, another procession of carriages came. The Luo clan, Dong clan, Xie clan, Mo clan and Ji clan came one after another. The Xie clan came to recognize Xie Danqiong's wife and 4 concubines. The Luo clans was Luo Ku. The Dong clans was Dong Wule. The Ji clans was of course Jizhu. As for the Mo clan, the former clan master came with Mo Tianji's 2 concubines. Chuyang immediately understood. These brothers were in seclusion here. How could those who had women at home not take care of them? Their loved ones had left and not returned. After not seeing each other for such a long time, who wouldn't miss them? And now, these clans were so close. The clan's experts were secretly protecting them. It was also a good thing to move around more. These women could wait until Ao Tianxing's birthday to discuss and come here. They were already restraining their longing. Chuyang was a little emotional. Everyone shared the same thought, and their hearts shared the same logic. He was away all year round. Mo Qingwu, Tai Budian and the rest, weren't they more pitiful than them? At this moment, Chuyang made a decision. If he was confident in the future, he would try his best to bring them along. If he wasn't, then he must not be away from home for too long. These brothers, basically, those with women came. As for those without women, so, it could only be the men. Chuyang looked at the warrior in front of him puzzledly. I'm not here to celebrate the birthday. I even grabbed you to ask you all this. Why are you so assured to tell me everything? That warrior looked at him disdainfully, his nose pointing up. Every year, there are many idiots like you. Besides, in the three heavens now, who dares to provoke the Ao clan? You want to make trouble? Chu Yang was speechless. At this moment, the Mo clan's team came. In front of the Ao clan's gate, Ao Tianxing was already waiting. Although Mo Xingchen had retired behind the scenes, he was still a figure of the same generation as himself. He had to give him face. After welcoming Mo Xingchen warmly, Ao Tianxing turned around and walked with Mo Xingchen arm in arm. The two old foxes didn't really deal with each other, but at this moment, they were friends who had been through life and death. They suddenly became intimate. The two walked a few steps. Suddenly, Ao Tianxing made a sound of surprise. He turned around and saw Chu Yang from afar. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. He walked over quickly. When that warrior saw the clan master striding over, he was so scared that his legs almost cramped. It's all your fault, all your fault. You pulled me to chat. Now, the clan master saw us. Looks like I can't avoid a beating. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chu Yang, why are you here? Ao Tianxing was extremely surprised. His eyes opened wide. Since you came, why didn't you tell me in advance? I would have come out to welcome you personally. Chu Yang smiled and cupped his hands. I didn't know it was Uncle's birthday. I came presumptuously. It's awkward now. What's there to be awkward about? Ao Tianxing grabbed his arm and dragged him away. You came here and didn't even enter the house. You're treating me like an outsider. You're really pissing me off. I'm really pissed off. But his tone was so excited, happy, and intimate. The original warrior was dumbstruck as he watched Chu Yang being pulled away from his side by the clan lord. Chu Yang? Why does this name sound so familiar? Yes, isn't this the name of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's boss? Could it be that the young man who chatted with him for half a day is the pavilion master of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, which is second only to the dark bamboo in the upper three heavens? The common boss of his young master and the other young masters, Chu Yang. Thinking of this, his legs started to play the pipa. Am I my boss? You're such a big god, but you teased a small shrimp like me for half a day. Now I'm so scared that I'm about to pee in my pants. Ao Tianxing turned around and looked at him fiercely. You dog head. Brother Chu Yang came and you didn't even inform me. You left your important guest out like this. What punishment do you deserve? Go back and receive 800 beatings yourself. 800 beatings? The warrior's legs went soft and he knelt down. Those people in the clan's disciplinary hall could beat a martial king to death with just 8 beatings. 800 beatings. They could really beat him up. Forget it, he doesn't know either. It's all thanks to him for introducing me. Chu Yang smiled. This person has done a good deed. Good deed? Good. Ao Tianxing laughed. Get up. Brother Chu Yang said that you have done a good deed. Go to the accounts room and receive 800 taels of silver. It's your reward. The warrior was dizzy and confused for a moment. The 800 beatings were about to hit him a moment ago. The next moment, it became a reward of 800 taels of silver. This experience of going straight from hell to heaven made the warrior's mind unable to process for a long time. On the other side, Ao Tianxing had already pulled Chu Yang away affectionately. This was the first time Mo Xingchen saw Chu Yang. When Chu Yang arrived at the Mo clan, Mo Xingchen was extremely frustrated. He was in seclusion and didn't see anyone, leaving everything to Mo Tianji. Naturally, he didn't see him. Uncle Mo, Chu Yang smiled affectionately and took the initiative to greet him. No matter what happened in the past, this guy was Mo Qingwu's biological father after all, his future father-in-law. At this moment, it was necessary to leave a good impression. As expected, Mo Xingchen was overwhelmed by this unexpected favor and laughed out loud with a guilty conscience. You are Chu Yang? Pa, you are indeed a talent. You are indeed a young hero. You live up to your reputation. You live up to your reputation. Chu Yang smiled modestly. You flatter me. Mo Xingchen sized him up affectionately. Of course, he knew that Chu Yang was the person his daughter, Mo Qingwu, cared about. Thinking of the past, he was a little embarrassed and tried to find something to talk about. Brother Chu Yang, do you have a wife? Chu Yang was stunned. What do you mean by this? If you haven't found a wife, I still have a daughter who hasn't married yet. Mo Xingchen laughed. When the time comes, you can interact more. Ao Tianxing at the side twitched his mouth. This old guy. Wishful thinking. You don't know that the last time Chu Yang came. This old man mentioned this problem before, but I was mercilessly rejected. Now, I'll wait for you to be rejected. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. What is your daughter's name? Mo Xingchen laughed. You know my daughter too. Her name is Jianghu. If Brother Chu Yang is interested, my daughter is now 14 years old. She is beautiful and cute and is learning from her master. Recommend the new novel, The Unparalleled Tang Sect by the third young master of the Tang clan. Cough cough, I don't need to introduce who the author is, right? Naturally, I don't need to introduce either. This is a golden signboard. Everyone can read it without worry. Chapter 12:21. When Mo Xingchen said this, he suddenly shut his mouth. The expression on his face was very interesting. Only then did he remember that his daughter's masters were Ning Tianye and Bu Luqing. Marriage as her father, can I make the decision? Instantly he felt awkward. However, Chu Yang said embarrassedly, cough cough. Yes, I still want to keep my chastity. I don't have any thoughts of family background. Since Uncle Mo has such good intentions, I have long had such intentions. I will agree. Mo Xingchen choked. After a while he started coughing violently. Ao Tianxing also choked. He was stunned for a while before he started coughing violently. Brother Chu, you must be joking. The two clan heads laughed dryly and said at the same time. I'm not joking. Chu Yang said seriously. Mo Xingchen was stunned. Didn't I just slip up and say something wrong? Why did you insist? What a beast. My daughter is only 14 years old. You've been thinking about her since 4 or 5 years ago. Tianxing was stunned. No wonder you were indifferent when I introduced you to girls. So you like the 60s? Damn, you're a beast. The reception hall was already full of people. The two clan heads sent Chu Yang in and turned to leave. They even left in a sorry state. Chu Yang was a little surprised. This old man, is he playing with me? He said he would introduce his daughter to me. Why did he have such a reaction when I said I wanted her? This is simply... Chu Yang. There was a surprised shout. Chu Yang looked up. He saw Jianghu standing up and waving at him. This shout of Chu Yang seemed to have a mysterious power. The noisy hall quietened down. Who in the three heavens didn't know Chu Yang? Chu Yang was a legend. When he was still in the three heavens, not many people knew about him. Only a few clans knew about him. However, after he disappeared, his fame suddenly skyrocketed. A few brothers used Chu Yang's name to bring glory to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Gradually, it became the second biggest power in the three heavens. Today, who didn't know that the mysterious leader of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion was called Chu Yang? When I was in Jianghu, I was a nobody. When I'm not in Jianghu, Jianghu is full of legends about me. This extremely pretentious phrase was perfectly interpreted by Chu Yang with his own experience. Chu Yang rubbed his nose and walked in. This was great. She had truly become a heart. So many orioles and swallows, so many pairs of beautiful eyes were all focused on his face. Even Minister Chu, who was used to seeing great winds and waves, couldn't help but feel a little nervous at this moment. Hello, Big Brother Chu. A young girl stood before him. Zheng respectfully bowed to him. I am here on behalf of Duxing. Greetings to Big Brother. At the same time, I would like to thank Big Brother for your gift, allowing Miao Ling to avoid the suffering of the cold poison in Horn Dragon Cave. It was Gu Miao Ling. Although Gu Duxing wasn't around, she was still his wife. Although they had yet to get married, Gu Miao Ling felt that she should thank Chu Yang on behalf of her family when he appeared. Gu Duxing was actually older than Chu Yang. But when they became sworn brothers, Chu Yang was the big brother. Chu Yang smiled warmly. Sister-in-law, you don't have to be so polite. Du Xing and I have gone through life and death together. When have we ever made any distinctions between each other? No matter what I did, it's what I should do. As he said, he casually took out a piece of mysterious yang jade and handed it over. This is the first time I see you, so I didn't prepare anything. Sister-in-law's body is cold, so I'll give you a piece of mysterious yang jade to warm your body. Gu Miaoling blushed. Thank you, big brother. She received it. It was warm to the touch and she immediately felt refreshed. She knew that it was a priceless treasure. She was even more grateful and surprised in her heart. This big brother's eyes are really sharp. He actually saw that the cold poison in my body hasn't been completely expelled at a glance. This piece of jade is really a gift. Big brother Chu, you gave Miaoling a piece of jade, but I don't know what you're giving me? A very heroic voice sounded from the side. Chu Yang looked back and saw that this person had a stocky build and was 8 feet tall. He stood like a lofty mountain and sat like the earth. He walked like a tiger, like a dragon roaring and a tiger roaring, like a magnificent army. It was truly a big and burly female. It was Ji Mo's beloved, Huyan Aobua. Miss Huyan, whose name shook the 3 heavens. Even among Chu Yang and his brother, her name was like thunder. Cough cough, so it's you, sister-in-law. Chu Yang rubbed his nose. Since he was prepared to be taken advantage of, then he should be prepared to be taken advantage of. He hurriedly took out a piece of mysterious jade and handed it over. Cough cough, sister-in-law, there's nothing wrong with your body. This piece of jade is for you to play with. The real use of this piece of jade was that its cold aura was stronger. If Huyan Aobua wore it all year round, it might be able to disperse some of the masculine aura in her body, but how could Chu Yang dare to say this sentence out loud? Huyan Aobua was overjoyed. She took it and put it in her arms. Her whole body immediately felt cool and comfortable. She beamed with delight and thanked him. She stretched out her hand and a dignified young woman was pulled out by him. Huyan Aobua said, Big brother Chu, this is Xie Danxiong's wife. This little sister is shy. I've asked for a greeting gift on her behalf. Xie Danxiong's wife was obviously a well-bred young lady. She was really good-looking. She was so shy that she didn't know where to put her hands. Hello, big brother. Her voice was not much louder than a mosquito. Cough cough. Yes yes yes. Chu Yang hurriedly took out another piece of mysterious yang jade. You gave them warm ones. Why did you give me cold ones? Huyan Aobua asked discontentedly. Cough cough. Their physiques are weak and they need warmth. But you, obviously don't need it. Chu Yang's forehead was sweating. Ji Mo's wife was really awesome. She was indeed not inferior to men. This sentence made Dong Wulei, Luo Kuwu and the others laugh secretly. But they heard Huyan Aobua say casually, it's just that I'm a little sturdier. Actually, they can do it too. They just need to eat more. Chu Yang's face twitched. Yes. You're right. Minister Chu's face didn't change when facing thousands of soldiers. King of Hell Chu's eyes didn't blink when he slaughtered thousands of people. But now, facing his brother's wife, he was really convinced. You pass. Huyan Aobua laughed. But Xie Danxiong's 4 wives are also here. Hey, you 4, quickly come up and greet your big brother. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. His family. Fortunately, I have a lot of mysterious yang jade. Otherwise, I would have gone bankrupt here. The jade given to Xie Danxiong's concubines naturally couldn't be the same size as the one given to his wife. So, Chu Yang was careful. The jade given to the 4 women were half the size. Sure enough, Xie Danxiong's wife's eyes revealed a very warm and satisfied look. Women getting along with women was a study. However, the relationship between a man and his brother's women was also a great learning. Fortunately, Minister Chu had done some research. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to pass the stage. And these are Mo Tianji's 2 wives. Huyan Aobua was like a big shot in the management of affairs. Looking at her attitude today, if Chu Yang didn't beg for mercy, she would really be upset. But Minister Chu was rich now. He smiled and casually gave each of them a piece of mysterious yang jade. His expression didn't change. But he didn't know that his heart was already boiling. This Mo Tianji is really not a good person. Look at his 2 concubines. Neither of them is more than 17 years old. They have actually been with him for so many years. What a beast! Chu Yang cursed angrily in his heart, but his face was amiable. This is Ao Xieyun's wife. This is their house. Huyen Aobua continued to introduce. Chu Yang made up his mind and gave a big gift, Ao Xieyun's wife and concubines. Mother, grandmother, each of them was given a piece of jade. Everyone was happy. Fortunately, the sword spirit was dormant now. If it was still awake and saw Chu Yang's prodigal behavior, it would definitely vomit blood on the spot. The group of women exchanged greetings and received greeting gifts. Then they went back contentedly. Ji Zhu, Luo Kuwu and Dong Wu Lei came up with flattering smiles. Ha! Brother Chu, we are old friends. This greeting gift, get lost. Before they finished speaking, Chu Yang had already roared. His long-suppressed anger finally found an outlet here. It's fine if those younger than me come to find me. But all of you are older than me, and you actually want a greeting gift from me? How can you be so shameless? Everyone was stunned. They never thought that this guy would turn hostile. Chu Yang stretched out his hands and put them under the noses of the three people. 3 big brothers, your younger brothers, and I have been through life and death together. It's my honor to meet you today. Come, give me a greeting gift? The 3 of them were instantly stunned. You were so happy to give out greeting gifts, but when it was our turn, you were the one who stretched out your hands? Where do we have greeting gifts for you? The 3 young patriarchs rolled their eyes and sat back down resentfully. Chu Yang didn't give up and went forward to ask for greeting gifts. Suddenly, there was chaos in the hall. The women who received greeting gifts covered their mouths and laughed. Looking at this big brother Chu Yang who suddenly appeared, everyone felt that this sworn brother of their husbands was really a good person. If such an evaluation fell into the ears of Chu Yang's enemies, they would probably vomit blood on the spot. If the millions of souls in the battle that decided the outcome of the lower 3 heavens heard this, they would definitely crawl out of hell to settle the score with these few women. Good person? Have you seen a good person who could bury millions of soldiers in one battle? The atmosphere in the hall became lively. It had to be said that although the hall was lively, there were indeed more women. Chu Yang, Dong Wulei and the others were tied up inside. Finally, under Ji Zhu's suggestion, the 4 of them found a small room and started gambling. After a long while, Minister Chu proudly walked out with a pile of clothes and threw them into the cesspool. Then he chatted and laughed with Ao Tianxing as if nothing had happened. Ao Tianxing waited for a long time but didn't see the other 3 come out. He wanted to go in and take a look, but the 3 inside desperately blocked the door. It turned out that under Minister Chu's superb gambling skills, not only did these 3 young masters lose all their belongings, they also lost all their clothes in the end. After Chu Yang won, everyone thought that he was joking. They didn't expect this guy to be so ruthless as to throw their clothes into the cesspool. Outside was a group of women in the hall. At this moment, the 3 dukes even had the heart to die. At this moment, a loud explosion was suddenly heard from outside. All the buildings of the Ao clan started to shake. Ao Tianxing was shocked, but then he was delighted. He stood up abruptly. The sound came from the direction of their seclusion. Are they finally out? Chu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 12:22. Before Ao Tianxing's voice died away, Chu Yang was already gone. Ladies, stay here and don't move. I'll go take a look. The ladies wanted to rush out, but when they heard Chu Yang's words, they stopped in their tracks. No matter what, they had to give face to this boss. Chu Yang's voice came from outside the door. Men, come out. Super alert. With a shout, the men in the hall ran out like a swarm of bees. When they heard these 2 sentences, the 3 naked dukes wanted to chop Chu Yang into pieces on the spot. You don't have to be so mischievous, do you? Under such circumstances, you actually left all the ladies behind and took all the men away? You don't want us to live anymore. Ao Tianxing was excited and wanted to go out. But he heard someone screaming in the small room. Clan Master Ao? Uncle Ao Shiji. Help us. Ao Tianxing was already in a fervent mood. How could he care about them? What's more, when I wanted to go in, you blocked the door and begged me not to go in. Now you want me to help? Help my ass. No way. Clan Master Ao went out confidently. The three dukes wanted to cry but had no tears. Dong Wulei and Luo Kuwu turned to look at Jiju, as if they were about to spit fire. It's all this guy's fault. Just now, he was discussing with the two of us to cheat and get something good from Chu Yang. Now it's great. We didn't win anything good from Chu Yang, and we don't have anything good left. And we don't even have clothes. It's all your fault. Your rotten idea. The two dukes shrank behind the table and blamed Jiju angrily. Jiju moved a chair to the door and sat cross-legged on the chair with his back against the door. His posture was bold and unrestrained. He spread his hands. How would I know this little gambling skill is so good? The three of us were defeated even when we worked together. Besides, I'm no exception. Didn't I get stripped naked too? Luo Kuwu and Dong Wulei wanted to cry but had no tears. You were stripped naked too, but why are you so stinky? The smell of Jiju's stinky feet became stronger and stronger in this small enclosed room. The two dukes covered their noses. They couldn't help it. There were women outside, and the window was closed by the three of them. Dong Wulei and Luo Kuwu felt that they could die of shame. How many days have you not washed your feet or bathed? Dong Wulei angrily asked Jiju. Jiju scratched his head and thought for a moment. Just a few days ago. I washed it last month. Luo Kuwu and Dong Wulei had a wonderful expression on their faces. Today was the 28th day of the month. You actually washed it last month? At this moment, the two dukes felt like they had nothing left to live for. There were only women outside. Moreover, they were all women whom he could not afford to offend. Yet, he was stripped naked and locked in a room. This was undoubtedly a very frightening thing. But what was even scarier was that there was a man in this room who hadn't bathed or washed his feet for at least 28 days. What do we do now? The Luo Kuwu monkey was below the window. Only the upper part of its neck was above the window, greedily breathing in the air through the window. We can only wait. Dong Wulei did the same action as him, and said in a voice that was almost suffocating. Your butts are quite perky. Jiju, who was at the door, shook his feet. The two retched and turned to look at Jiju murderously. Just you wait. When this is over, if we don't kill you, you can count yourself lucky. I'm so scared. Jiju's posture was bold as he crossed his legs, and he let out a strange cry. In front of the back mountain of the Ao clan, Chu Yang stood there quietly. The expression on his face was a little excited. In front of him was the huge passage that he had created with his fist. At this moment, in the belly of the mountain, loud rumbling noises were constantly coming out. One after another, clear dragon roars could be heard, shaking the air. The whole sky was filled with the roars of dragons and tigers. The entire mountain was trembling. More and more people gathered here. Chu Yang stood upright, standing at the front. Brothers, you are finally coming out. Long time no see. The rumbling noises continued. Chu Yang had a warm smile on his face. But his eyes were filled with memories. He didn't know why, but at this moment his heart. But what he thought of were some trivial matters. He still remembered that when Gu Du-Xing had provoked him, GMO had said, "Let's compete. Who's afraid of who? The loser is the underling." At that moment, deep in GMO's eyes, there was no competitiveness. There was only a warmth of acknowledgement. He still remembered that time when he had fought against the Golden Horse Riders department. GMO had insisted on following him to watch the show. He didn't say that he was going to help him, but he insisted on watching the show. Because he knew that he was still weak at that time. When facing a strong enemy, it was hard to say whether he would live or die. He still remembered that time, in the land of heavy snow, when the brothers faced the fourth uncle who hadn't revealed his identity at that time, who was countless times stronger than them. They didn't retreat an inch. They didn't give an inch. He still remembered that time in Great Zhao. The brothers had laughed. "Boss, it was easy." Easy? Behind this easy sentence, how many dangers were there that nearly cost their lives? He still remembered that Gu Du-Xing had said coldly, "As long as you charge, I will go." He still remembered that time when he had blocked the saber for Dong Wuxiang. The moment Dong Wuxiang turned his head and saw him bleeding, he had a hysterical and violent look in his eyes. He still remembered that Emotionji had looked out of the window indifferently and had said indifferently, "I am willing to accompany you in a bloody battle in this life." At that moment, Emotionji's eyes had been filled with fighting spirit. He still remembered that time in the battle in the far north wastelands. The brothers had all been injured. They had all huddled together, but each of them had fought for a place to cool off at the entrance of the cave. He still remembered that Ray Butong had smiled mischievously, "I am not afraid of death. I won't die. What are you worried about? Do I really not know that kind of despair and fear every time I die?" He still remembered that Xie Dan Qiong had looked at him warmly and grabbed his arm with one hand. "Brother, I will accompany you in a bloody battle in Jianghu." He still remembered that Ao Xie Yun had said enviously, "It is good to have such a brother." Then, he had joined without hesitation. He still remembered. Every time Tan Tan had seen him after a long separation, he would ask, "Chu Yang, look, am I handsome? These bastards. These bastards." Chu Yang smiled faintly. At that time, the situation had changed. The Ao clan had internal strife. The brothers were in danger. In just a few days, all the brothers gathered together as fast as they could. Luokadi had been seriously injured and was on the verge of death. But at that time, he had rushed over in time with his scarred body. Even though he didn't even have the strength to raise his hand when he had rushed over, he had still rushed over in the face of life and death. If we had won, if we had survived, I would have been with my brothers. If we had lost, if we had died, I would have been with my brothers. It was that simple. When the brothers had gathered together, they had faced the powerful enemies of the three heavens with their chests held high. They had felt warmth and pride in their hearts. Such brothers, brothers who had gone through life and death together. Who in the world had it? Me. Chu Yang believed that at that moment of life and death, everyone must have faced life and death with such pride in their hearts. In this world of indifferent friendship, filled with deceit and betrayal, even when most people doubted this kind of sincere friendship, we trusted each other so much. We trusted our backs to our brothers so confidently. We are so proud. When we are together, we can defy the heavens. Chu Yang's heart was rapidly replaying the time he had spent with his brothers at this moment. The rumbling sound was getting louder and louder. It was the sound of a dragon's roar. It was getting more and more shocking. Then all the vibrations, all the sounds. Suddenly, they all disappeared at the same time. There was a faint sound coming from afar. Chu Yang smiled. An exaggerated voice said, "Awo, what the heck? Such a long passageway actually appeared here." Another voice said calmly, "It's strange. I didn't discover it before." Another voice said thoughtfully, "What's strange about a passageway? But this passageway gives me the feeling that it was punched out by someone." Then, a voice suddenly shouted, "What the heck? Dog ant? Just one punch? How thick is that punch?" An angry voice said coldly, "Shut up. Can't you be quieter? You need to be taught a lesson." A few voices hissed together, "Hey, second brother Gu. You were already very annoying inside. Now that you're out, you're still so annoying." A cold voice said coldly, "Say that again?" There was complete silence. After a long time, a flattering voice said, "Second brother, you're still so powerful." A few voices said together, "I really can't stand it. This little wolf is too disgusting. Every day he flatters second brother Gu." That voice said sadly, "What can I do? If I don't flatter him, I'll get beaten up." A burst of laughter. A calm voice said, "Don't talk first. We're going out soon. We've been inside for a long time. It's better if it's night outside. But if it's daytime, we'll definitely encounter strong light. If we're not careful, our eyes will be ruined. So, from now on, close your eyes and feel the light." A voice said disapprovingly, "Never heard of it." A few voices roared together, "Just close your eyes when we tell you to. Do you believe that we'll beat you until you lose control of your bladder? Fuck, you only know how to threaten. Damn it, you're just saying it. Actually, I've already closed my eyes. Do you think I'm as stupid as you guys?" It was clearly someone who was beaten up. Someone at the side commented, "I really admire this guy. If he doesn't get beaten up for a day, he'll be extremely depressed. Another voice concluded fiercely, despicable. This guy is despicable. Bastard. Who are you talking about? You bastard who doesn't know how to respect the elders. You? How are you old and virtuous? I haven't eaten for a long time. Don't make me vomit. Then, the two of them started to quarrel. The few of them continued to bicker as they walked out. Chu Yang smiled, turned around, and gestured for them to keep quiet. Everyone nodded in understanding. Just as the people inside said, if they suddenly came out and saw strong light, their eyes that had been in the dark for a long time would probably not be able to take it. At this moment, among the people waiting, if anyone made a sound and was heard, they would open their eyes in surprise and joy. The consequences would be unimaginable. It was just past noon. The light was still very strong. The dark and gloomy December had arrived. We're here too. Chapter 12:23. I'm going to take a bath. Ao Shiyun was in his own house and was surrounded by familiar faces. He couldn't take it anymore. With a loud roar, he took the lead to cover his crotch and dashed away. Wait for me. The brothers hurriedly followed behind. Some covered their faces, some covered their buttocks. In the blink of an eye, they all disappeared without a trace, leaving only one sentence, "Boss, don't run. We'll come back to settle the score with you." Chu Yang touched his nose. There was a comfortable smile on his face, but he said angrily, "How impudent! As little brothers, you actually dare to settle the score with boss." A burst of laughter came from beside him. After a long time in the hall, following a commotion, everyone looked over expectantly. A young man with wet hair and brand new clothes walked into the hall with his head held high. Instantly, there was a burst of screams and the hall became chaotic. The army of women moved out at the same time. Some cried, some screamed, some cried tears of joy, some cried silently, some looked at each other with infatuation. In an instant, Ao Shiyun, Xie Danqiong, Mo Tianji, Gu Duxing and GMO were all in the arms of beauties. Chu Yang watched with a smile at the side. This was their time. They needed to vent their yearning for more than a year at this moment. Among the brothers, only Luo Kadi didn't have beauties. He walked to Chu Yang's side and couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Despicable. Truly despicable. Even heroes have a weakness for beauties. Look at these guys, cuddling with beauties, how despicable. Chu Yang snorted and was about to speak when he saw Luo Kadi suddenly burst into laughter. When Chu Yang saw this, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of tea. He saw Huyan Albwa striding over majestically and grabbing GMO. She punched him and scolded, "GMO, little thief. You really want to die." Bang. Another kick landed on GMO's back and he fell to the ground. Then he was picked up again. His feet were off the ground and he was actually laughing. "What's mother? I missed you so much." Huyan Albwa's eyes reddened and tears almost flowed out. She scolded, "I didn't miss you." But she still hugged GMO in her arms. GMO was in Huyan Albwa's arms like a little bird. Miss Huyan was obviously very happy, shouting, jumping and scolding. However, when she jumped, she took GMO with her. This scene was like a mother with a large body bringing along her child who had yet to reach adulthood. Chu Yang was speechless. Luo Kadi laughed so hard that he staggered to the left and right. He held his stomach and cried out in pain. After venting their excitement, everyone began to whisper to each other in a group. Everyone tactfully retreated. And Gu Duxing and the others, under the guidance of the servants and maids, were also leading their loved ones into the small courtyards that had been prepared for them. At this moment, silence spoke louder than words. In the blink of an eye, there were only two people left in the bustling hall. Chu Yang, Luo Kadi. "Boss. If they're all gone, what are we going to do?" Luo Kadi was a little envious. "Sigh, if I had known earlier, I would have also found one. Back then, there were so many beautiful ladies chasing after me. I didn't even look at any of them." Chu Yang rolled his eyes. "You have a very important mission." Luo Kadi's eyes lit up. "What mission?" Chu Yang led him. They came to the door of a small room. First, they cocked their ears and listened. Then, they pointed to the door and said, "Little wolf, there's a gift that I've prepared for you for a long time inside. You just have to open the door and you'll get it. Take note, this is for you alone. Don't let anyone else see it. Otherwise, they'll say that I'm being unfair." Luo Kadi nodded repeatedly. He was so excited that his little face was red. "Don't worry, boss. I won't say it even if you beat me to death." Chu Yang nodded and whispered mysteriously, "Go and open the door. Brother, you'll get a surprise that you've never had in your life." Luo Kadi immediately became excited. His eyes shone like a wolf's. "Who's the boss?" "This is the Tribulation Sword Master. How can the gift that he wants to give me be weak?" Luo Kadi rubbed his hands and felt that his palms were a little hot. He smiled slyly and walked to the door sneakily. He even looked around carefully. Yes, there's no one. It's time to receive the gift. He pushed the door open. Yes? The door didn't open. He pushed again, but it still didn't open. Luo Kadi scratched his head and pushed the door again. There was actually someone inside holding the door open. Luo Kadi was instantly enraged. What the fuck, this is a gift from the boss. Who beat me to it? Anger rose in his heart. Second Master Luo roared, "Motherfucker!" He gave a flying kick. With a bang, the whole door was kicked into pieces. Luo Kadi stepped in and roared, "Who dares to touch my things?" Then he suddenly became dumbfounded and stood there like a puppet. In front of him, his big brother Luo Kuwu and Dong Wulei of the Dong clan were looking at him as if they wanted to eat him alive. He looked down. What? These two bosses were actually completely naked? Luo Kadi was stunned. Then his eyes widened. He turned around and saw that Chu Yang was no longer behind him. Luo Kadi was instantly in a tragic situation. His fingers trembled and his face turned green. "What are you doing?" He saw that the two of them were actually closing in on him with gritted teeth. Luo Kadi retreated continuously. He roared angrily, "Luo Kuwu, aren't so many beautiful wives and concubines enough for you to play with? Why do you have to play with men?" And with big brother Dongwu. He hadn't finished speaking when the two opposite rushed over at the speed of the wind. The anger and astonishment on their faces turned into horror in an instant. She covered his mouth with her hand. "My dear master, your loud voice is really going to scare me to death. Ooh, let go of me." Luo Kadi was terrified. "I don't like this." Dong Wulei and Luo Kuwu were speechless. A groan came from the ground. Luo Kadi looked down and saw a naked fat man. It was Jianghu. Luo Kadi fainted. He shook his head and said dizzily, "The three of you? At play together?" He hadn't finished speaking when the three opposite rushed over like wolves and tigers. They pressed this abominable guy to the ground and beat him up. After a long time, Luo Kadi's clothes were stripped off. Luo Kuwu put on the clothes without hesitation and then sneaked out. After a while, he found a few sets of clothes and put them on. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. "I want to go back and tell father." Luo Kadi shouted miserably. He wanted to cry but had no tears. "You actually like men, bastard. You're the one who likes men." He had just finished speaking. Another round of beating. After a long time, Luo Kadi, who had been separated for a long time, was beaten up until he looked like a pighead. "Jiang, what kind of boss did you recognize?" Luo Kuwu said with grief and indignation. His whole body trembled and his fingers trembled. He didn't finish speaking in the end. The three archdukes left stealthily as if they were flying. Luo Kadi lay on the ground, confused. What is going on? After a long time, he reacted. "Luo Kuwu, big brother, you should also bring me some clothes. Boss, the surprise you gave me this time is really unbearable." When Luo Kadi wrapped himself in curtains and sneaked out, he bumped into a group of maids carrying dishes and cutlery. They were walking towards him in a single file. When they bumped into each other, Luo Kadi's face immediately turned pale. The maids exclaimed and the cutlery fell to the ground. The ladies widened their bright and beautiful eyes in disbelief, as if they had seen a ghost. Luo Kadi was in for a tragedy. Because a rumor immediately spread in the Ao clan. Do you know Luo Ergong who just came out of seclusion? That's what? You only know now. This second master Luo likes to run around naked. Who's Luo Ben? Ayaya. Streaking. It means running in public without any clothes. There's such a thing? Come. Let me tell you in detail. This matter happened in Thai. Okay. That night, the AO clan held a grand banquet. They entertained the guests. The female guests weren't in the hall. There were other seats. But the male guests were also clearly separated. The dukes sat at their own table. Chu Yang and the other brothers sat at the same table. They didn't interact with each other at all. That night, they drank and ate to their heart's content. Only second master Luo shocked the other brothers. What's going on? How did you get beaten up to this state when you just came out? Second master Luo's heart was filled with bitterness. He was angry but didn't dare to speak. Under the threatening gazes of the three dukes beside him, he didn't dare to utter a single word. When we're full, let's have a bet with the three big brothers. Chu Yang laughed heartily. A little bet is good for the mood. Yes, my big brother likes this the most. GMO fanned the flames. I bet that you definitely won't win. Mo Tianji added fuel to the fire. But when the three dukes heard the word bet, they shuddered at the same time. They pretended not to hear at all and turned their faces away. The corners of their mouths twitched. At this moment, the three dukes swore at the same time. Even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't bet. Bet with you? Not only do I have nothing better to do, I also have masochistic tendencies. Chu Yang's provocation came to nothing. This made the brothers who were very familiar with the three dukes extremely surprised. Only Chu Yang laughed so hard that he fell over. After the meal, the three dukes left as if they were fleeing for their lives. Only then did Chu Yang and the other brothers ask questions. Chu Yang glanced sideways and saw that there were still many people in the hall. On the surface, they looked serious, but all of them were listening attentively. Therefore, Chu Yang leisurely told him about the gambling match. He deliberately lowered his voice. At this volume, ordinary people definitely couldn't hear him. But who in this hall was an ordinary person? Instantly, everyone heard him. Instantly, the entire hall burst into laughter. Some people held their stomachs and squatted on the ground, crying out in pain. As for GMO, Luo Kudi and the others, they even slapped the table and laughed. They were so happy that they wanted to worship their big brother's brilliance on the spot. He really helped his brothers vent their anger. Chapter 12:24. It was already late at night. In Chu Yang's room, the seven brothers were all gathered together. After being apart for more than a year, this was the first time they were all alone together. They couldn't help but feel a little excited. All of them actually felt as if a lifetime had passed. Feeling this atmosphere, no one made a sound. All of them only felt waves of heat rolling in their hearts. Even Luo Kadi and GMO, who were the most talkative, kept their mouths shut. Sometimes, they would squirm a little and then quickly shut it again. All of you have changed. Chu Yang looked at his brothers with some emotion. All of you have slimmed down a little. However, you look full of energy. You must have improved a lot during this seclusion, right? Mo Tianji smiled very reservedly. It's all right. At least, we didn't disappoint you. Even Mo Tianji, who had always been reserved and steady, said this. It was clear that they had indeed benefited a lot from this seclusion. Oh, tell me about it. Chu Yang asked with great interest. Everyone looked at Gu Duxing. No matter how one counted, it should start with Gu Duxing. Gu Duxing coughed and said, this seclusion was all thanks to Xie Yun's divine dragon treasure. There were unimaginable good things inside that allowed us to improve so quickly. Yes, I am currently a sword supremacy, first grade. He raised his eyebrows. He couldn't help but feel proud. From sword sovereign to supreme martial artist in more than a year. This was an unprecedented speed. Therefore, even with Gu Duxing's indifference, he couldn't help but feel like he was presenting a treasure. The first person to speak gave Chu Yang a fright. Sword supremacy, first grade. This kind of strength was also one of the top in the upper three heavens. It was enough to kill an ordinary third-grade supreme martial artist without too much damage to himself. How could there be such a huge improvement? It was only a little more than a year. Chu Yang suddenly thought of Dukyu. Dukyu had activated the elf bloodline. His cultivation improved by leaps and bounds all of a sudden to an astonishing level. Could it be that the divine dragon treasure opened by his brothers was actually similar to that of the elf race? If that was the case, then it was understandable. Supreme martial artist, first grade. GMO was the second to speak. His face was full of pride and arrogance. He almost wanted someone to kick him. Supreme martial artist, first grade. Ao Shiyun nodded slowly. He was very graceful and elegant. Me too, supreme martial artist. First rank. Luo Kadi touched the bruises on his face. His eyebrows were raised high. His eyebrows seemed to be dancing, looking very spirited. When Chu Yang saw Luo Kadi's eyebrows at this moment, he even had the misconception that he was looking at Tan Tan. Me too. Xie Danqiong smiled reservedly. Cough cough. Mo Tianji coughed a few times. I haven't arrived yet. I'm only at the peak of saint level. After all, Mo Tianji wasn't the main fighting force. It was already very surprising that he was at the peak of the saint level. Chu Yang let out a long sigh. That's great. Everyone was overjoyed. They finally got to see their boss's shocked expression. This feeling was simply too great. In an instant, the brothers all felt that this 1 year of darkness was really worth it. It was so worth it. To be able to see such an expression on Chu Yang's face, even if he had to add another year, he would gladly accept it. Mo Tianji said calmly, the biggest contributor to this upgrade is Ao Xieyun. Xieyun offered up the dragon race's treasures and shared them with his brothers. If it was just him alone, this energy would be enough for him to break through to 8th grade supreme martial artist and above. Ao Xieyun hurriedly waved his hands. Tianji, what you said is really boring. I especially don't like to hear it. Chu Yang laughed. He understood what Mo Tianji meant. On the surface, it was just a polite greeting. In reality, it was just to point out Ao Xieyun's achievements so that Chu Yang, the boss, would know what to do. After all, when a big clan was established in the future, there would still be a ranking among the big clans. And this ranking would be based on which of the brothers contributed the most. It would be a ranking that everyone was sincerely convinced of. Mo Tianji had thought far ahead and had already planned that. Furthermore, from the tone of Ao Xieyun's words, Chu Yang knew. These brothers had already completely merged together. He couldn't help but feel very happy. The brothers all talked at once and recounted what had happened in the secret chamber. Chu Yang listened with great interest. Especially the few times Luo Kadi and GMO fooled around, it made Chu Yang laugh heartily. Mo Tianji was also all smiles. He was in a particularly good mood. Seeing that Chu Yang had returned, Mo Tianji seemed to have put down a heavy burden. His whole body relaxed. He knew that if Chu Yang didn't come back, sooner or later, this group would disperse. And when it did, no matter what he had done, he would be the most unforgivable person. Because he had fabricated a lot of information. That was why it had been maintained until now. Now that Chu Yang had returned, whether Mo Tianji's information was fabricated or true, it was no longer important. What was important was that there was a core. When everyone finished talking, it was already midnight. Boss, what have you been doing all this time? GMO moved forward. Don't just let us talk. You talk too. Chu Yang smiled warmly. There are indeed a few things that I want to tell everyone. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up. The brothers all became serious. That day, I was at the bottom of the lake of despair. Then I went to the upper three heavens. After that, Chu Yang spoke slowly and methodically. As Chu Yang spoke, everyone's expressions also changed. Sometimes they cheered loudly. Sometimes they looked serious. Sometimes they looked fascinated. They really didn't expect that their boss had experienced so many interesting things during this period of time. It was really a pity that they had missed out on all these things. When Chu Yang talked about Dong Wushang and Rui Butong, everyone's emotions were obviously high. How is Wushang now? GMO puffed out his chest. Can he beat me? So, if I'm not wrong, he should have broken through to Saber's supremacy at this time. Chu Yang looked at GMO meaningfully. You can spar with him. Everyone laughed. GMO was only an ordinary first-grade supreme martial artist now. If he fought with a first-grade Saber supremacy, how could it be called a spar? It would be pure torture. GMO's face turned bitter. He said dejectedly, "This bastard's progress is so fast. I'm really disappointed." Then now, is it really the sound of dragons and phoenixes? Motianji said thoughtfully. That's right. Chu Yang said, Xie Yun is the successor of the dragon race and has the bloodline of the divine dragon. Bu Tong is the successor of the phoenix race and has the bloodline of the phoenix. Two truly amazing characters have appeared in our brother's home. Luo Kadi snorted and said disdainfully, they're just a loach and a bird. Ao Xie Yun pounced over angrily and the two of them wrestled. After he finished talking about Chu Yang's experience in the upper three heavens, the brothers sat quietly and didn't move at all. Now, I want to tell you the second thing. Chu Yang took a deep breath and said, it's a big secret about me and us. Everyone was shocked and raised their heads at the same time. As if they had guessed what Chu Yang was going to say, everyone's eyes lit up. Maybe everyone is wondering why my strength can improve so fast. Why do I have so many miraculous medicines on me? Chu Yang took a deep breath and said in a low voice, brothers, I'm sorry for keeping it from you. I'm the current Tribulation Sword Master. Everyone felt as if their heads had been blown off. Instantly they felt a little dizzy. Although they had heard Mo Tianji's speculation, this was the first time Chu Yang publicly admitted his identity. How could guesses from others be compared to Chu Yang's own confirmation? Even Mo Tianji, although he had guessed it long ago, still felt that his brain was a little short of oxygen at this moment. His body swayed a little. Gu Duxing could be considered to be very calm, but he still let out a soft sound from his throat, as if he had suddenly bitten his tongue. Tribulation Sword Master, the ruler of the heavens. According to ancient legends, whoever had the Tribulation Sword would be the master of the heavens. The brothers were petrified at the same time. They all held their breaths and looked at Chu Yang. Under everyone's gaze, Chu Yang slowly stretched out his right hand. There was nothing in his palm. However, in the next moment, something that shocked everyone to the extreme happened. In Chu Yang's empty palm, a small sword, only the length of a little finger, suddenly appeared. It was sparkling and shiny. The sword tip, sword edge, sword blade, sword guard and sword tongue were on it. But there was no sword hilt, no sword tassel, no. It was just a half-finished sword. In the next moment, this half-finished sword made a sword sound. Although the sound was soft, it was extremely crisp. It was extremely mighty. Clang. The swords at the waists of Gu Duxing, Ao Xian, GMO and Luo Kadi made a sword sound at the same time. The swords automatically popped out of the scabbard by half a foot, and a cold light flashed. To the Supreme King of the Sword, to give the supreme salute. In the next moment, that small sword suddenly expanded and became the same size as a normal sword. Cold light and murderous intent filled the air. There seemed to be strange lights moving back and forth on the body of the sword, and it was breathtaking. Although it was only a half-finished sword, the aura it emitted at this moment was arrogant and insufferably arrogant. There was a sense of pride and arrogance, as if he was the only one in the world. Clang. Chu Yang placed the sword on the table in front of him. The sword vibrated twice, seemingly dissatisfied with Chu Yang's decision to let it go. But it eventually quieted down. Everyone's gaze was instantly focused on this sword. Gu Duxing's gaze was fervent and filled with the light of pilgrimage as he looked at this sword. Although the sword was not complete, it was universally acknowledged as the best sword in the world. The winds and clouds of the past 10,000 years were stirred up by this sword. How many lives were plunged into misery and suffering because of this sword? How many influential figures had perished because of this sword? How many legends arose because of this sword? How many sins were born because of this sword? In 10,000 years, at the very least, tens of billions of people died because of this sword. Tens of billions of lives forged the supreme reputation of the Calamity Sword. Tens of billions? What kind of concept was that? Chapter 12:25. Calamity Sword. This was the peerless divine weapon that all swordsmen in the heavens dreamed of. It was the number one divine item. Gu Duxing's body trembled. His gaze was focused on the tip of the sword. It was as if he could see that the tip of the sword, which was as cool as water, emitted an aura that was as sharp as his. This aura made Gu Duxing tremble with excitement. Calamity Sword was also the number one killing weapon. It was also the source of all disasters. But in the end, all disputes and disasters still had to be ended by this sword. Mo Tianji's gaze was bright as he looked at Calamity Sword. His expression was solemn. Mo Tianji rarely had such an expression. Usually, he was confident that he had the world in his hands. But today, his expression was incomparably solemn and respectful. Because Mo Tianji knew that once this sword appeared, his position would be fixed. From this moment onwards, there would be countless experts who would die under his schemes. But if he did not plan well, he and all his brothers would die without a burial ground. The master of Calamity Sword would turn the world upside down. When Calamity Sword appeared, wisdom would lead the way. This was the legend of Calamity Sword. When Calamity Sword truly appeared, it was also the moment when the master of Calamity Sword officially appeared. It also meant that the great cause of overturning the heavens had officially begun. They would officially start a war with the great clan that had ruled the upper three heavens for 10,000 years. From today onwards, there would be no retreat. There would only be two outcomes. The first outcome was that the master of Calamity Sword would lead his brothers to overturn the heavens. The second outcome was that they would die and their clans would be wiped out, beyond redemption. Mo Tianji looked at the sword. The Calamity Sword flashed coldly. It seemed to be blinking and looking at him. Mo Tianji looked at the empty sword hilt. He suddenly felt as if he was holding a sword. Not a sword, but he really wanted to fill it in. Suddenly, he felt a heavy sense of responsibility and mission. Is this my destiny? Ao Shiyun suddenly felt the blood in his body burning. He stared at Calamity Sword. His breathing was heavy. His gaze was fixed on his chest. Suddenly, a golden dragon scale slowly appeared. The dragon scale shone. Ao Shiyun trembled. I finally saw Calamity Sword. The sword that had ruled the heavens for 10,000 years. Xie Danqiong gasped for breath. His handsome face was flushed red. GMO opened his mouth and muttered to himself. Only those who were very close to him could hear what he was saying. Dog ant. Holy shit. Dog ant? What the fuck? So fucking beautiful. Your grandmother? Luo Kadi gasped. His eyeballs almost fell to the ground as he stared at Calamity Sword. He kept repeating, so it's true. So it's true. So it's true. Chu Yang also looked at Calamity Sword. He took a deep breath and said, This is the Calamity Sword. He paused for a moment before continuing softly, as for us brothers, for a very long time in the future, we'll all be in the same boat. Fate and this sword. They're connected together. As soon as these words were spoken, the brothers' expressions changed. As if they had just woken up from a dream, they suddenly trembled. No one doubted that it wasn't the Calamity Sword. This sword appeared out of thin air. Then, under everyone's widened eyes, it grew from the size of a pinky to the size of a normal longsword. The size of a longsword could actually change? Not to mention seeing such a miraculous thing, the brothers had never even heard of such a thing. Such a miraculous sword. In the world, other than the Calamity Sword, what other sword could have such a miraculous effect? This is the Calamity Sword. Chu Yang's words had already drawn the attention of Gu Duxing and the others. They didn't notice Chu Yang's last sentence at all. Only Mo Tianji's eyes flashed and he revealed a contemplative look. For a very long time, fate and this sword will be connected together. This sentence was worthy of praise. Generally speaking, the fate of the Calamity Sword's owner and the Calamity Sword would be closely related to the Calamity Sword. But from Chu Yang's words, why did it seem like that wasn't the case? It was just for a very long time? Mo Tianji was a little confused. Faintly he understood. A strange feeling rose in his heart. Could it be that the upper three heavens wasn't the end? Chu Yang slowly stood up with a heavy expression. I've hidden my identity from you for so long. You should understand that I had no choice. But what I'm telling you today isn't just to reveal my hidden identity. I'm also going to tell you about the true legend of the Calamity Sword. Mo Tianji was shocked. He perked up his ears and sat up straight. Chu Yang said in a low voice, since ancient times, there's a saying that the one who has the Calamity Sword will have the world. There's another saying that the calamities of each generation are the big clans that will dominate the world in the future. So, everyone knows that as long as one becomes a calamity, one can bring glory to the clan for 10,000 years. And the Calamity Sword himself will become an eternal legend. Everyone nodded. That's right, everyone thought so, including the few of us. Very wrong. Chu Yang said seriously. Wrong? Mo Tianji frowned. It's not wrong for Calamity to become a big clan. It's also not wrong for him to become a legend. But Calamity himself is wrong. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. For 10,000 years, 8 Calamity Sword Masters were born. But as far as I know, the founders of the big clans weren't Calamity's people but their children. And the Calamity Sword Master and Calamity disappeared without a trace. So, where did Calamity go? Chu Yang slowly told the story of the Calamity Sword Master and Calamity, which had been covered up by history for 10,000 years. Everyone was moved. They didn't expect the legend of Calamity to be so cruel and cruel. The Calamity Sword Master betrayed Calamity? The calamities of each generation were all used to mend the world. Chu Yang said, maybe you'll think that the Calamity Sword Masters are all heartless. Including Wu Jueqing at the end of 40,000 years ago. Because of this, he stayed in the human world and wanted to take revenge on the Calamity Sword Master. But this is a huge mistake and misunderstanding. Then, Chu Yang explained the real reason again. Gu Duxing's hands trembled a little. The other brothers were also moved by this. They didn't expect the real reason to be like this. Chu Yang concluded, so, although the Calamity Sword Masters and Calamity had a great friendship, they were really a bunch of tragic people. For the sake of his brother, he had sacrificed his own life, yet he had allowed his brother to build his career in the other world with an eternal grudge against him. This is the sorrow of the Calamity Sword Master. Their brothers gave up everything for them, but they still resented them. This is also the sorrow of Calamity. They wanted to take revenge for an eternal misunderstanding, but in the end, they could only find out that they were wrong. But they still haven't come to their senses. And we can't bear to let people like Wu Jueqing come to their senses. How can this not be Wu Jueqing's sorrow? But you have to pay attention to one thing. Their sorrow is because they couldn't meet the final requirement. That's why we can't repeat the same mistake. Chu Yang sighed. Now, I'm the Calamity Sword Master. Brothers, whether you like it or not, but because of me, you're really one of the calamities now. Gu Duxing and the others' breathing quickened. It's our turn now. Chu Yang smiled. Time will slowly prove what I said, but I'd rather say it first. So that you can be prepared. So, we can't repeat the old path of the Calamity Sword Masters and Calamity. Chu Yang took a deep breath. So, we have to kill them directly. So, our goal is huge. Very far. This is our destiny. Chu Yang said deeply, brothers, we need to face our destiny together. I need your answer. What do you think? What do you think? Chu Yang looked at them one by one solemnly. Gu Duxing smiled coldly and said indifferently, Boss, the calamities in the past are the calamities in the past. They have their own destinies, but we are not them. I know that Boss needs everyone's opinion, so I'm not speaking for the brothers here. I'm only speaking for myself. A smile like a spring breeze appeared on his cold and hard face. Life and death follow you, that's all. Chu Yang's heart warmed, but his expression didn't change. His gaze turned to Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji smiled gently and elegantly. I'm different from them. We have conditions. Don't forget your promise in the future to marry my sister Mo Qingwu and be my brother-in-law. As long as you do it, even if you're really sinister and vicious, I'm fine with it. Chu Yang's face stiffened. He rubbed his nose and coughed awkwardly. GMO and Luo Kadi whistled at once. Everyone cheered. I see. Gu Duxing made a rare joke. In order to have a military advisor, Boss sold himself to Little Wu. In order to have a brother-in-law, Mo Tianji sold himself to his brother-in-law. Everyone laughed at once. Chu Yang coughed awkwardly and put on a fierce face. Let's get down to business. It's your turn, GMO grinned. I've never considered such complicated matters on my own. I've always been happy with myself. I feel very happy with my brothers, that's all. He revealed 2 rows of white teeth. I'll be happy even if I die. Luo Kadi patted him on the shoulder. GMO is very shameless. This is clearly what I wanted to say. A warm smile appeared on Ao Shiyun's face, but he said, we have the sword supremacy, the saber supremacy, the successor of the dragon race, the descendant of the phoenix, the calamity sword master, the master of manipulation and calculation, the military advisor. With the dragons and phoenixes roaring and the brothers united, we have the right time and the right people. I feel that such a team will definitely not fail. Since we won't fail, I love victory the most. Ao Shiyun smiled. Even if we die, it'll be very satisfying. Chapter 12:26. Chu Yang laughed out loud. Then he said in an awe-inspiring manner, what if I really want to betray you one day? What if I kill you? Big brother, you miscalculated. Gu Duxing sighed. You shouldn't have said it. If you say it now, how can you betray us in the future? At most, when you betray us, we will pretend to be ignorant. Ha! Okay, when the time comes and you betray us, let us know in advance. We can prepare our emotions and pretend to be ignorant. Everyone laughed together. The feeling of knowing each other spread warmly. Mo Tianji also laughed. He knew that what Chu Yang said now was nonsense to the brothers now. But this nonsense had to be said. Because in the future, when they reached the upper 3 heavens as their level increased, they would come into contact with more and more secrets. After they came into contact with more, the matter of the past Tribulation Sword Master and Tribulation would be dug up sooner or later. What Chu Yang is saying now is nonsense. But it won't be as simple as just nonsense when our brothers find out about it by themselves. At the very least, there would be a knot in their hearts. Chu Yang's honesty now seemed silly, naive, and nonsense, but it put an end to the possibility of the brothers splitting up in the future. It seemed that Chu Yang was thinking further than him. Big brother, now that you have said good and bad things, it's time to talk about business, right? Mo Tianji said. Of course, I have to talk about business. Chu Yang laughed. Then he asked, have you seen enough? If you have, I will put away Tribulation Sword. Not enough. Everyone said in unison, even if you look at it for 10,000 years, it won't be enough. If you haven't, then put it away. Chu Yang snorted. With a wave of his hand, Tribulation Sword flew up on its own. It shone brightly as if it was bidding farewell to everyone. Then it slowly shrank in midair. Then it turned into a ray of light and went into Chu Yang's heart. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. Luo Kadi came forward and touched Chu Yang's left chest. He praised, it really went in. Damn. Suddenly, there was a cry of surprise. The brothers were shocked. What's wrong? Luo Kadi narrowed his eyes and rubbed his palm gently. Big brother's chest is quite full. Piv. Mo Tianji finally calmed down and took a sip of tea. But because of this sentence, he spat it out and coughed repeatedly. His laughter shook the heavens. Little wolf, you've never had a wife. Could it be that you like this? GMO asked in a strange tone. Chu Yang slapped Luo Kadi's hand away with a smack sound. He said furiously, I only saw you acting like a rogue towards women. But now you're actually lusting after men? This is really intolerable. Luo Kadi opened his mouth wide. I'm innocent. I only touched it, huh? After laughing for a while, the atmosphere became more relaxed. Chu Yang then smiled and said, the lowest level of cultivation we have now is Saint level. Duxing was already a first-grade sword sovereign. It can be said that with our age and cultivation, he would be considered a rare genius even in the big clans of the upper three heavens. We do have the right to be proud. We have such strength, and our brothers are working together as one. In the upper three heavens. That's enough for me to move unhindered. As long as boss orders us to charge forward, we will swarm forward. Cut down the great clans. Chu Yang smiled faintly and asked, is that what you all think? Everyone was embarrassed. GMO and Luo Kadi coughed and turned their faces away. Their faces were already red. Ao Shiyun and Xie Danqiong coughed repeatedly. Gu Duxing's face was also a little red. When Chu Yang said that just now, everyone thought that it was a kind of affirmation and they were all enraptured. But when they heard the last two sentences, they realized that it wasn't the case. Instantly, they were all a little embarrassed. But Chu Yang had indeed guessed what everyone was thinking. Their strength had skyrocketed, they were young and promising, and they were supreme martial artists. How many people could there be in the world? Naturally, they were extremely confident. Mo Tianji raised his eyebrows. He looked at the sorry state of these guys with great interest. I'm not saying that it's wrong for you to think this way. Of course, if people over 100 years old think this way, then they are old and muddle-headed. But you are young and you should be proud. Chu Yang said lightly, but what I want to say is that your strength is really, really far from enough. This time, apart from Mo Tianji, even Gu Duxing had a look of dissatisfaction on his face. There's no need to be dissatisfied. Chu Yang said, I just killed the Grand Duke of the Lan clan in the lower three heavens. He was 28 years old and a peak 8th grade martial saint. Or you might think that a 28-year-old 8th grade martial saint is no big deal and that you are all younger than him and stronger than him. But don't forget that he was the youngest generation in the Lan clan. Above him, there are people who have lived for hundreds, thousands of years, and even close to 10,000 years. What are the cultivation levels of those people? Chu Yang asked everyone. Really? Ao Shiyun asked in shock. Chu Yang nodded. All of you are first-grade supreme martial artists, but you are already considered the highest in your respective clans. But the Grand Duke of the Lan clan, Lan Rua, is far from being ranked among the experts in the Lan clan. As far as I know, in every big clan, on the surface, there is one peak-level supreme martial artist, 2 to 3 beginner or second-grade supreme martial artists, 5 8th-grade supreme martial artists, more than 10 7th-grade supreme martial artists, dozens of second-grade supreme martial artists, and at least 300 lower-grade supreme martial artists. And this is just the strength on the surface. Chu Yang said solemnly. Everyone turned pale with fright. GMO was tongue-tied. That many? In secret, the Dharma Supreme once instructed the big clans to cultivate secret forces 5,000 years ago and 1,000 years ago to fight against the Tribulation Sword Master. Therefore, in secret, every clan has such experts, at least the same number. Just the big clans alone, we have to face at least 5,000 supreme martial artists. We only have these 7 to 8 people. Chu Yang smiled faintly. Silence fell. Even Mo Tianji had not expected such tyrannical strength and such a great disparity in strength. Before Chu Yang said this, Mo Tianji had already tried his best to overestimate the big clans. But compared to the current numbers, it was at least 50 times worse. Let me tell you, the second ancestors of the great clans were all dead, but the founders of the great clans were still alive. But the founders are the first-generation ancestors, the children of the previous generation's tribulation, who are still alive. Basically, every one of them. They all have a cultivation level of more than 1,000 years. Chu Yang added. The expressions on the faces of the brothers became somewhat distorted. Yes, there's still the biggest enemy that I haven't mentioned. Chu Yang said slowly, it's the law enforcement officers with the greatest strength who are currently in charge of the heavens and spread all over the upper three heavens. Mo Tianji's expression became unusually heavy. The number of experts in the law enforcement officers is definitely not comparable to that of the big clans, but it's definitely comparable to any 2 or 3 clans combined. The quality of their experts is also much stronger than that of the big clans. The big clans only have 10,000 years of foundation, but the law enforcement officers have tens of thousands of years of accumulation. At this point, Chu Yang suddenly paused. Because he thought of a terrifying fact. The big clans had tens of thousands of years of accumulation. If they could have experts at the peak level, then, in these tens of thousands of years of accumulation, how many such experts were there? Such experts. Were they still in the heavens continent? Were they still alive? If they were still alive, then how high were their cultivations? He thought of Zi Sheqing's words, all these years, the heavens experts that I've fought with. There were more than 10 of them. Feng, you could be listed in the top 10. However, before Zi Sheqing said this, she had not fought with Ning Tianya and Bu Luqing, nor had she faced the Dharma Supreme, much less Wu Jueqing. Then, among the top 10 experts that Zi Sheqing had evaluated, who were the other 8? Even if Qin Feng and Lu Yun had gone, but what about the other one? Where was he? And these were the ones that Zi Sheqing had fought with. How many more had she not fought with? Zi Sheqing had only said the top 10, but how many were there outside the top 10? So, how many seats did the law enforcement officers have? Mo Tianji's expression became extremely heavy. He was thinking, in the face of such experts, how effective would his scheming and wisdom be? After saying this, the hearts of the 7 brothers were all heavy. GMO and the others, who were originally full of confidence and complacency, were instantly deflated, like a swollen bladder that had been pricked by a needle. They had thought that they were already considered big shots, but now it seemed that they were still small fries. So, if we want to overturn the heavens, we have to go through a series of bloody battles and countless life and death experiences. Mo Tianji said, his voice relaxed and high-spirited. However, although boss described the enemies as strong, I only feel very excited. Mo Tianji smiled slightly. If we can level the heavens with just a breath, then what's the point? The more difficult it is, the more interesting it is. The more powerful the enemy is, the higher and faster we will be able to improve under their training. Mo Tianji laughed somewhat frivolously. These enemies are nothing but whetstones for us. If we want to stand at the top, we have to first step on the stepping stones and then use the whetstones to walk up step by step. GMO smiled. I'm just afraid that the whetstones are too hard and will break the blade. Mo Tianji smiled confidently. If the blade breaks, it means that it's not strong enough. If it breaks, then so be it. Since it's not strong enough, it will break sooner or later. But as long as it's not broken, it can split the heavens. Mo Tianji smiled gently, his eyes shining brightly. He said slowly, word by word, the whetstones in the heavens, wait for me to sharpen my blade. My blade will shine and enter the heavens. Mo Tianji had never spoken so frivolously before. At this moment, not only was he frivolous, but he was also overbearing, arrogant, and condescending. However, it was precisely because of this frivolous and arrogant tone and expression that did not put the world in his eyes that the eyes of the brothers gradually lit up. Wait for me to sharpen my blade. Update. Let me tell everyone a piece of good news. Our World Defying Heaven's 7th subscription group, the World Defying Heaven's 7th subscription group, is open today. This group is a full subscription group. This month we are aiming for the top. We hope that all the brothers and sisters of World Defying Heavens will join. Feng Ling welcomes you, World Defying Heavens welcomes you. Chapter 12:27. That's right. If our opponents aren't strong, how can we improve? If that's the case, we might as well stay in the lower 3 heavens. It'll be easier in the lower 3 heavens. Gu Duxing raised his head coldly. I like strong opponents. Xie Danqiong smiled lightly. My viburnum flower hasn't bloomed for a long time. Haha. Luo Kadi was stunned at first. Then he burst into laughter, rocking back and forth. Tears even flowed out. I'm sorry. I heard it as, your chrysanthemum hasn't bloomed for a long time. Xie Danqiong was so angry that he couldn't speak. His finger trembled as he pointed at Luo Kedi. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, really, really? Extremely shameless. The other 5 people finished Xie Danqiong's sentence in unison. At the same time, Xie Danqiong also said it, not missing a single word. Everyone laughed so hard that they fell over. It looked like this wasn't the first time Luo Kedi teased Xie Danqiong, and Xie Danqiong was like this every time. His finger trembled, his handsome face flushed red, and he gritted his teeth and said, really, really, extremely shameless. Over time, the brothers had already learned to do it. GMO chuckled. I like it. As a man, trampling on the strong and humiliating the pure is my highest pursuit. It's also a great feeling. Ao Shiyun burst into laughter. You'd better hurry up and let Aobo humiliate you. Everyone laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. Mo Tianji smiled and gave Chu Yang a look. Chu Yang smiled and said, all right, it's getting late. All of you should hurry back. Yes, especially those with wives and concubines, it'll be better tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'll come and test the results of your seclusion. GMO chuckled. Boss, compared to super experts, we're obviously still a lot worse. But, compared to you, I'm not bragging. You're really not much right now. He laughed happily. Every time I think about this, my heart feels as sweet as honey. Chu Yang said deeply, okay, tomorrow. I'll let you feel sweet enough. GMO puffed out his chest. I'll wait and see. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. You'll know what it means to be powerful tomorrow. Why aren't you getting lost? Are you waiting for Aobo to catch you? GMO was startled. He subconsciously turned his head to take a look. Then, he turned his head and said loudly, hey, why would I be afraid of her? What do you know? Aobo is as obedient as a kitten in front of me. Everyone burst out in laughter and said in unison, shameless. Scram. GMO giggled and swaggered off. Xie Danqiong also stood up. His handsome face was slightly red. Well, I understand. The remaining 5 people spoke in unison, winked at the same time, and revealed ambiguous smiles at the same time. Xie Danqiong walked away with a red face. Cough. Ao Xie Yun coughed, but Luo Kedi had already interrupted. Brother Xie Yun, you have to be careful tonight. Don't turn into a dragon by any means. You can really lose your life. Ao Shiyun cursed loudly. He took to his heels and left. I'm leaving too. Luo Kedi scratched his head. They're going back to hug beauties. I'm going back to hug pillows. Gu Du Xing stood up. Let's go. Chu Yang looked at him strangely. Don't tell me you want Sister Xiao Miao to catch you? Gu Du Xing blushed and said, no. There's something. I have to say something. Seeing Gu Du Xing's strange expression, Chu Yang was a little surprised. What's the matter? Cough. It's like this. When Big Brother went missing and I returned to the clan, foster father once said that Sister Xiao Miao and I were not young anymore. He wanted to marry us. At that time, I said, my big brother's life and death are unknown. How can I be in the mood to marry? When my big brother comes back, I'll get married immediately. Cough cough. Now you're back. Chu Yang was stunned. In that instant, he was excited, touched, and a little amused. I say, you blockhead. If I didn't come back, would you never find a wife? Gu Du Xing's cold face revealed a trace of an embarrassed smile. He actually scratched his head and stammered, well, since Big Brother is back today, I want to get this done as soon as possible. It just so happens that all the brothers are here. I want to marry Sister Xiao Miao in front of the whole 3 days. Big Brother, please bear witness. Gu Du Xing was a little embarrassed. Before we get married, I want to... Understood. Chu Yang said seriously, later, let Tianji, the master of calculation and manipulation, check the date and get this done. I can stay here for at most a month. This matter, I'll do my best. Chu Yang said, we can't be slow. If sister-in-law blames us, I can't take the blame. Everyone laughed. Mo Tianji touched his chin. It seems that today is a good day for marriage. Get lost. Mo Tianji hurriedly changed his words. But really, 7 days later is an auspicious day. Isn't it a little too soon? Chu Yang was shocked. Marriage is a big event in life. It can't be so rushed. It's not urgent. Mo Tianji had a well-thought-out plan. Du Xing, you should immediately send someone back to the Gu clan to inform them. At the same time, you should ask Uncle Ao to send out the invitations tomorrow morning to create momentum. 7 days should be enough. Chu Yang said decisively, since that's the case, it's settled. Announce to the upper three heavens that all clans and forces, no matter who they are, must come and participate. Those who don't come are our enemies. In particular, the gifts can't be too shabby. Also, they don't want gold or silver. They only want rare and good things such as elixirs, spirit stones and precious metals. Mo Tianji laughed. Exactly what I want. We're about to kill our way up to the upper three heavens. We can make use of Du Xing's wedding to plunder the upper three heavens as our foundation. Previously I was still worried. Now it's good. Du Xing wants to get married. If we don't make use of such a good reason, we'd be stupid. Chu Yang clapped his hands and said excitedly, good. We'll say it like this. Those who receive the invitation and the news, if they don't come, they'll be the common enemy of our clans and the heavenly army. We'll kill them without mercy. Also, we'll judge their attitude towards them based on the quality of the gifts. This is a ruthless move. That's how it should be done. Mo Tianji was exultant. The gifts should be divided into first class, second class, third class, and unrated. First class gifts should be of high standard. They should sit in a private room and drink good wine. Second class gifts should be served in a hall and drink ordinary wine. Third class gifts should be served outdoors and bring their own wine. All unrated gifts should be given. All gifts should be left behind. Their legs should be broken and they should be chased out. As for those who don't present gifts, they should all be killed. Yes, this invitation is in the name of the heavenly army. It's from the Gu clan, Ao clan and Luo clan. The Mo clan, Dong clan, Xie clan and Ji clan will jointly present it. It'll be more grand. Chu Yang's eyes shone. Let's do it this way. The two unscrupulous people were exultant as they discussed their plan to amass wealth. Then I'll quickly go and discuss it with Sister Xiao Miao. Gu Du Xing was shocked. He hurriedly turned and left. He was speechless towards these two money grubbers. Time is so tight and you still want to amass wealth. I'll get married and you'll get rich. Cough cough cough. Why does this feel so wrong? Only Mo Tianji and Chu Yang were left in the room. The two faced each other and laughed for a while. Then they remained silent. They each thought about their own matters and the topics they wanted to talk about. There's only the two of us left. Boss, are you interested in drinking another cup? Mo Tianji smiled slightly. Of course. Chu Yang laughed. I haven't had a good drink with you in a long time. There are too many people tonight. I can't drink to my heart's content. Mo Tianji smiled warmly. I'll go get some wine. I have some here. There's not only good wine. There's also good food. Chu Yang reached out and took it out of the tribulation space. He went out every day. Naturally, he had a large stock of these things. Good. The two toasted and drank silently. For a long time, they didn't say a word. After a long time, Mo Tianji finally said, I've been with these guys for more than a year. It's really hard. It's really hard to imagine how you managed to convince them in the past. They don't need to be convinced. Chu Yang smiled faintly. I have a heart. I have a heart. A heart, heart. Mo Tianji repeated and laughed. That's right. This is indeed a divine weapon that works on people like us. It's even sharper than the tribulation sword. Chu Yang laughed and was overjoyed. It's the same for you? Mo Tianji raised his eyebrows. Of course. The two clinked their cups and drank the wine in one gulp. Although the two were talking nonsense, they both knew what the other wanted to say. They were both preparing. Mo Tianji finally spoke first. The enemy is strong. I need to know more details. The more detailed, the better. The more detailed, the better. From now on, he had to start preparing for the future. Emotianji was always like this. He would start preparing for anything before the plan was formed. When it really started, all the preparations would be directed towards one goal at the same time. One move would be earth-shattering. Chu Yang thought for a long time and said, I need to straighten it out. He couldn't talk casually to Emotianji like he was telling a story, because Emotianji would find out what was really useful from what he said. Even some unintentional words that he didn't expect would cause Emotianji to expand to thousands of miles. Therefore, Chu Yang had to properly straighten out his thoughts. I understand. Emotianji smiled. I understand. You understand. This sentence was a bit tongue-twisting, but the two smiled knowingly. Xiao Wu is in my house now, Chu Yang said softly as he sorted out his thoughts. Emotianji's eyes lit up. He anxiously grabbed Chu Yang's hand. How is Xiao Wu now? Chu Yang smiled warmly. She's very happy. And she's already a martial saint. During this time, she's probably a 3rd or 4th grade martial saint. Emotianji clapped his hands excitedly. That's great. Then he looked suspiciously at Chu Yang. But why isn't this girl learning from her master? Why is she in your house, you pervert? Why is she in your house? You beast, you didn't do anything to Xiao Wu, did you? There are more than 1,000 words left for the 8th part. My hand is cramping. I'll write the 8th part later. G. Chapter 12:28. Chu Yang was furious. Am I that kind of person? The more Emotianji thought about it, the more dangerous it was. He said, I'm worried about your character. Chu Yang couldn't tolerate Emotianji's suspicion of his character. He was furious. She will be my wife sooner or later. So what if she does something? What can you do about it? Emotianji was furious. Beast. Indeed, he was a beast from head to toe. Being in the same team as you, this military advisor is deeply ashamed. I don't know who is the real beast between the two of us, Chu Yang retorted. I only said it. I didn't do anything. You, on the other hand, had 2 concubines a few years ago. They are not even 10 years old yet. What do you know? Emotianji's face turned red and he scolded. Then he sighed and said, You don't know. There is an inside story. Inside story? Chu Yang was surprised. These 2 women are sisters by blood. It was my mistake. I was still young at that time. I fell into Emotianyun's trap. I acted out of anger and killed the wrong people. I killed their parents. Emotianji sighed. I knew I was wrong after that. However, the dead cannot be brought back to life. At that time, my subordinates wanted to eliminate the root of the problem in order to avoid future troubles. I had no choice but to protect them in the name of being lecherous and taking concubines. I was only 10 years old then. If I was young now, I would have thought of a better way. Emotianji took a deep breath. I, Emotianji, am not a good person. Exterminating clans and killing people is a common occurrence for me. However, I did the right thing. Therefore, I have a clear conscience. However, when it comes to the things that I did wrong, I can't eliminate the guilt by killing them. Since these 2 girls followed me, I have always treated them like little sisters. On one hand, I tried my best to make up for my mistakes. On the other hand, every time I saw them, I would remind myself not to make any more mistakes. That's why most of my decisions are made under such careful consideration. These 2 sisters are the alarm bells that I keep by my side. Every time I have an emotional outburst, I ask for tea. They would bring me tea. When they appeared, they would immediately remind me not to be impulsive, to think carefully, and not to make any more mistakes. Regardless of whether it was because of him. Was it because of someone else? I can't afford to be wrong. Emotianji sighed and said, In this chaotic world of Jianghu, we can't afford to make any mistakes. A single mistake could lead to eternal damnation. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, if you still have a conscience, once you kill the innocent, it will form an inner demon. You'll never reach the peak of martial arts. It's been a few years since they came to me, but I haven't laid a finger on them. If they take a fancy to someone else in the future, I will give them a generous dowry like how I would give my younger sister. I will send them off in a grand manner. Chu Yang sighed and patted his shoulder. It's been hard on you. It's hard to say. You can't say that you're in a difficult position. After all, you're the one in the wrong. Emotionji drank a big mouthful of wine. Yes. However, it seems unlikely that they will take a fancy to someone else. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. The way these two girls look at you clearly shows that they are deeply in love. To be honest, if they really take a fancy to someone else, I really can't bear to do it. Emotionji smiled bitterly. However, the two of them are very clear about their family background. They understand everything. Yet, they have imperceptibly fallen in love with me. This is the most painful thing right now. I am in pain, but the two of them are in more pain than I am. Chu Yang sighed. This matter was the most troublesome thing for Emotionji. This kind of thing, even if he was the master of calculation and manipulation, even if he could see through the mysteries of heaven, what could he do? The two girls fell in love with the enemy who killed their father. Their love was deeply rooted. He couldn't kill them. He couldn't marry them. Emotionji accepted the daughter of his enemy. He couldn't marry her and couldn't bear to drive her away. This kind of feeling was really a mess. He couldn't throw it away or let it go. He could only be helpless. A few years ago, I was still on guard. I was afraid that they would kill me for revenge. But now, I have completely let down my guard against them. These two girls also don't have any intention to kill me. However, the pain is increasing with each passing day. Emotionji smiled faintly. I can only turn this pain into my sobriety. I don't want to kill the wrong person again. As for the three of us, we can only drag it out like this. Emotionji sighed deeply. Drag it out and take one step at a time. Chu Yang sighed with some schadenfreude. I originally thought that my feelings were tangled enough. Now, it seems that you are a little more miserable than me. He didn't know why, or perhaps it was a bad taste, but in this life, Chu Yang especially liked to see Emotionji's embarrassed and helpless expression. He took great pleasure in Emotionji's misfortune. Other than Emotionji, no one else had this kind of treatment. For example, Emotionji's heart was blocked in this matter. In Chu Yang's eyes, it was no big deal. Although it was difficult to deal with, you have already announced that these two girls are your concubines. Can they still marry others? Besides, you have feelings for each other. What's the big deal even if you take them as concubines? Isn't it a kind of compensation and psychological comfort? However, since Emotionji was tangled up, Chu Yang naturally wouldn't say anything. This was because he understood Emotionji's temper very well. If you tried to persuade him, he could come up with 10,000 reasons to make you as tangled as him. Chu Yang didn't want to be tangled up. My pain can only increase your joy. Emotionji looked at Chu Yang with contempt. I have already seen through you. Chu Yang smiled mischievously. Same to you. What do you mean by, same to you? Emotionji suddenly became vigilant. You also have emotional entanglements? Where did it come from? Don't tell me that besides my sister, you have other women outside? Chu Yang was dumbfounded. He didn't expect this fire to burn him so quickly. He flew into a rage out of humiliation and said fiercely, What? You can have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but you can't let me have one? Emotionji narrowed his eyes. Really? Chu Yang slumped down. Really? It's a long story. I really regret it. I shouldn't have agreed to it in the first place. Half of Emotionji's anger was extinguished by these words. He said dumbfoundedly, Tell me about it? This matter is. Chu Yang said, This is a secret. I will only tell you. Originally, I thought that I had nothing to worry about in the lower 3 heavens. I didn't expect that I would be poisoned by a lust dragon. I thought that she was dead. I didn't expect that she had been hiding it all this time. Her Majesty the Emperor of Iron Cloud, who was originally a girl, cough cough. Chu Yang said it with difficulty. These words had been suppressed in his heart for a long time. He needed to find someone to talk to. Emotionji was the best trash can. That's it. My son is 1 year old now. Chu Yang spread his hands. What can I do? I say, brother-in-law Mo Tianji, do you understand? Mo Tianji didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was also at a loss. This matter? It seems that I can't blame you. Give me an idea. Chu Yang tilted his head. Mo Tianji coughed. He already had a son. What else could he do? Give him an idea to abandon his sister? Wouldn't that be a bastard? Let's talk about serious matters. Mo Tianji said righteously, feelings are your private matter. You can do whatever you want. I can't care. Anyway, my sister can't be wronged. Chu Yang was in awe of this guy's despicable and shameless act of hiding his true intentions behind his sanctimonious facade. Since you can't care, you actually said, my sister can't be wronged. This is bullshit. Mo Tianji obviously didn't want to talk about feelings anymore. Let's talk about the enemy. You haven't thought about it for such a long time? My feelings are a mess. Chu Yang sighed in disappointment. Mo Tianji turned a deaf ear. There are so many supreme martial artists in the big clans. What's the position of each clan? Distribution? Relationship between each other? Grudges? Which clan is related to which clan? Secret dealings? And what's their attitude? He raised a series of 40 to 50 questions. Chu Yang listened and his head swelled. He raised his hands in surrender. Stop, stop, stop. How about this? I'll tell you everything I know. Then, you can ask me if there's anything you don't understand. If I don't understand either, then we can only wait for the future. Okay. Mo Tianji walked to the table and picked up a pen, ready to record and form information at any time. The big clans are like this. Chu Yang quickly organized his thoughts and said bit by bit. He knew that Mo Tianji wanted to form a general first-hand information. I'll start with the big picture. As Chu Yang spoke, Mo Tianji frowned deeply. His pen flew and in an instant, he drew a sketch of the distribution of the big clans in the upper three heavens on the table. Chu Yang took a look. Yes, it's basically like this. But the distance between each clan is quite far. The distance between any two clans is as far as the south to the north in the upper three heavens. Mo Tianji took a deep breath. He didn't say anything and noted this point. Then, there's the relationship between the big clans. Chu Yang continued. He heard all this from Lan Ru. It was really hard on Lan Ru. In order to make a good impression in front of the Tribulation Swordmaster, he had to memorize all these things. Now, Mo Tianji was the one who benefited. Mo Tianji memorized everything. Chu Yang spoke until he was thirsty and picked up a cup of water to drink. Then, Mo Tianji was startled. According to what is written above, basically every clan is related to the other clans. Moreover, this is only for the last 200 years. If it's like this, isn't it like an iron plate? Mo Tianji scratched his head. Of course it's not like an iron plate. Chu Yang rolled his eyes. In the upper three heavens, there aren't many purple crystal mines. And they're also very widely distributed. In addition, there are black, blue, white, and other mines. These are the main interests of the upper three heavens. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.